Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Boss Rush Video Game Book Club, the Boss Rush podcast's monthly spoilercast and review discussion show about the games that you have voted on. I am one of your hosts, PK Power Patrick Klein, and alongside me is my co-host, who I know as the girl who would use Raider's Machine to live out every one of her Genshin Impact fantasies or fanfics. But everyone else knows her as just Taylor. How you doing, Taylor?
Hi everyone! Happy to be back. I'm doing great, and I am so excited to discuss this game because I had so much fun with it.
It was a very fun game, and it was a game that a lot of people managed to play. And we brought in one of these people who has played this game as well. We know him as Carlos Chai Melodies. He is a composer extraordinaire on various indie games, as well as kind of does his own independent stuff as well. How you doing, Carlos?
Hello, I am a person that's played this game. So I go by. My name is Carlos. My composer name is Chai Melodies. I've composed for the studio Hit Reg Studios. I've also done music for streamers. I've played games like Final Fantasy 14 or Variety, and some music that's not related to video games. And so composing is my shtick, and love to do it. So, yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Hey, Carlos, where can people actually find your music so that they can give it a listen?
You can find me on Bandcamp. So Bandcamp, if you look at Bandcamp and Chai Melodies, it'll pop up. You can also look at my YouTube channel by typing in Chai Melodies on the search bar. I'm also on Blue Sky for Chai Melodies. I have the same name everywhere. So Blue Sky, YouTube, and Bandcamp, and Instagram, and I post whenever I can. So listen to my stuff. It's pretty chill. I like to write a lot of like JRPG-ish or piano and stuff. If you like piano, you should listen to my stuff because I play a lot of piano. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was about to ask, like, what would you say your play style is in like your music? Like, what would people who've never heard your music kind of be expecting?
I would say people compare my music a lot to Studio Ghibli. If you like the Spirited Away movies, Kiki's Delivery Service. People say it sounds a lot like JRPG. I've had someone compare it to Pokemon. So I'm more of the not traditional, but like the more like the JRPG like melodic style. It's very melodic, very peaceful. I would say if I had, well, it's funny because I just finished a soundtrack that was in the Renaissance style for a dwarf PvP auto battler. It's called For the Forge. It's currently on demo on Steam, and that was fun because I got to do like little like Renaissance flutes and little some lutes and guitars and stuff. It was really funny. And before that, I did a game called Against Great Darkness, which is more like Castlevania style. So, but my style has usually been pretty consistently melodic. So I would say that's like my signature. That's why I'm Chai Melodies, is I'm melodic.
Yeah, you actually just recently released an EP called Memories, and I do remember listening to some of them, and you do some pretty good work.
Thanks.
Like, I was not working as much on my work as I should have been while I was listening to your music. So,
are you saying you fell asleep listening to my music? Just kidding.
Very much so.
I'm just,
yes.
yeah.
It is melodic.
That's true. So that was my piano EP that I worked on during 2024. This year, I'm been more focused on soundtrack stuff, so actual gigs, and less personal stuff. But that probably will change soon. So, looking to get back into the fray with my personal music for funsies while I'm working on For the Forge. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for the shout out.
Oh, we're just really happy to have you here, so, and we're excited to talk about what we're going to talk about. But before we do that, I just want to get a little housekeeping out of the way. If you want to support the Video Game Book Club and the Boss Rush podcast, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/Boss Rush Network. Subscribing to tiers on our Patreon can grant you perks like exclusive pre and post shows, question threads for our Spotlight podcasts, and early access to After Dark and other expansion pass content like this show. And as always, though, your viewership and listenership is enough for us. Please subscribe to the Boss Rush Network on our YouTube and like this video. Also, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, feel free to give us a rating or a nice review or a not so nice review. Just, anything to kind of give us a little more exposure. We would appreciate whatever you can. We will take your honest criticism. If it's negative, we will probably just say shove it up your ass, but we will take that criticism to heart. Also, you can find us. You can also find all of our wonderful features like our banters, listicles, reviews, and more on our website, bossrush.net. No, we won't tell it to shove it up your ass. We'll just, judge you silently. But anyways, yeah, we're here to talk about a game. Taylor, what game are we talking
Yes.
about?
Today we're going to be talking about Split Fiction. So this game actually came out last month, which is crazy to me because I don't know why it feels like it's been like 2 months or so since it came out. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because my life is busy, but it feels like it's been forever since I played it. But it came out on March 6th of this year. It's available on PS5, PC, Xbox, and I don't know what that stands for. NS2.
Soon to be Nintendo Switch 2.
Oh, okay. I was like, what is that? So Nintendo Switch 2. It was made by Hazelight Studio. So this game was created by the people who made It Takes Two. So if you've played that and you enjoyed that as a fun co-op game, I highly recommend this one. And as of now, it has a 91% reception on Metacritic. So we're going to hop into the spoiler-free discussion and initial impressions. So because I just spoke, I'm going to pass it off. So I'll have Pat go first with his thoughts on the game.
Well, this is a nice different touch here. What did I think about this game? You know what? I actually really, really enjoyed this game. Like, I was going through a patch of games that weren't like quite, I don't know, quite as enjoyable as I would like them to be. Like, they weren't quite as entertaining, but this game I would say was very entertaining in a lot of respects. The gameplay was a lot of fun. I loved how the co-op worked so well together. That like I don't know how anyone could play this without using a microphone and talking to like someone else in terms of like a lot of the puzzles. But like you really have to work well with your partner in this game. Otherwise, you aren't going to get too far. And that's happened a few times with my playthrough and my partner, and probably the same with your guys' playthrough and your guys' partners. But I also like really loved the characters in this game. The two characters are definitely like comparison to night and day. One's more of a pessimist, one's more of an optimist, and they just mesh well together. Despite how the beginning kind of puts them as almost like worse enemies. But it's a wonderful story, wonderful gameplay. I would say, in terms of originality, it may not be the most original game. Like, I love the concept, but a lot of the in story concepts are very cliche in terms of fantasy and sci fi, as well as just kind of overall plot points. There was nothing really like revelatory that just like changes your whole perspective of like the game and characters. And yeah, those are definitely some of my thoughts about this. Let's jump over to Carlos.
Sure. So this game definitely split my fiction. I thought it would. My initial impression, I didn't really know what to expect. I did play It Takes Two, and I was definitely impressed by that game, as far as how zany it was, how it was able to stay creative the whole way through. And when I saw the trailer for Split Fiction, I was a little bit not sure what to expect because of what you mentioned, Patrick. It did look a little more generic at first. However, I thought what they did with the scope of what they had was fantastic. Like, they had so many cool ideas that just flowed naturally. It was nonstop. I carried the person I played with the whole way through.
No, you
So
did not. No, you did
how do you know
Uh-huh.
that? Anyway, so so I just like to say I just like to say that no matter what your skill level is, you'll always have a good time in this game with the person you play with. Um,
I will say the checkpoints were very generous
yeah,
for
they're
if
pretty
your partner
generous.
wasn't very good at platforming.
Mhm.
So
Um, yeah, I'm just kidding. So anyway, so I did think that like going back to like how they were able to put so many ideas into a more limited scope because you had sci-fi or fantasy was super cool. The story, I think I've seen both takes on the story that it was just okay, but really, or also really good. I'm more of the it's really good camp. I'll get into that more later on during the discussion, but I felt like some of the more deeper topics were executed super well, especially with the main two leads. I think Radar, the villain, which we'll get into, um, 15 out of 10 villain, super fantastic. I cannot think of a more. More motivational. He makes me want to be a bad guy, actually. So,
he was
super
very
fantastic.
passionate,
He's very.
very
I
passionate
mean,
about his job.
yeah, I'll talk more about him later. He's fantastic. Anyway,
Hmm.
so yeah, the story was good, and I think other things that we'll definitely get into is like the music execution, the pacing. It was
Mhm.
very much almost all there. But yeah, that's my thoughts, my spoiler-free thoughts.
Awesome. And Taylor, what
My
do you
turn.
think?
Sorry. Kind of wish I went before Carlos because he's making me laugh.
Hmm.
Anyways, um, no, I absolutely love this game. I feel like it's going to be my game of the year. I had just had so much fun. Same thing. I didn't know what to expect going into it. Um, I liked It Takes Two, but I also had things about It Takes Two I didn't really like. Part of that was the story. Actually, I was not a fan of the story of It Takes Two. Um, and so for this one, I was like very curious how it would go. Um, I will say, like, I do have some negative thoughts about it. Like, I do not think Raider is a 15 out of 10 villain. I think he's like a 2 out of 10 villain. I think he's one of the worst villains ever. I
We
did
got
not like him. I thought he was boring. I don't know. I was not a fan of him at all as a villain. And I thought the overarching story was not good at all. We'll get into that in the spoiler discussion, but I did not like the overarching premise of this game. I thought it was very weak, and I thought that's very clear at the like very first 10 minutes of the game. I was like, what is this? What am I playing? But ignoring the overarching story, I loved everything in between. I was obsessed with all the levels. I thought every level it looked amazing environment wise. I thought the puzzles were so creative, and I liked that. I don't think there was almost any repetitive puzzles. It was like every time we got to a new sci-fi world or a new fantasy world, I'm like, how many more ideas can they come up with? And they kept coming up with more, and it was like new, abilities and new puzzles. And I was like, oh my god, it's like so creative. Um, I loved the relationship between Mio and Zoe, beginning to end. I thought it was phenomenal. I was really invested in their relationship and their backstory. This game made me emotional quite a few times. I cried a couple times playing it. Um, so overall, I loved it. I had a ton of fun playing it in co-op. Like I said, great music, great environment, super fun. I have not played a game. I haven't had this much fun playing a video game in a very, very long time. I guess let's put it that way. Because I'm the type of person who's been having issues sticking to a game. Also, where I pick it up and put it down and pick it up and put it down because I just can't stay with it. And this one, I was like, I just remember every time we would finish a session, I'd be like, oh, I can't wait to play the next session. Like I was like so excited to continue. So yeah, for me, I gave it like a 9.5 out of 10. I rated it very high because I had a ton of fun playing it. So I'm looking forward to discussing it in the spoiler section.
All right. Well, that concludes our spoiler-free discussions. Sounds like we all kind of in the same boat, except for when it comes to the story and maybe the villain. But now is the time that we would recommend to find yourself a friend, or to go on the Discord that Hazelight set up to find that friend and try this game out, because it's definitely an adventure that I think everyone should at least get the opportunity to try. But then come back and listen to this spoiler discussion. Or if you don't have friends, we can be your friends. We may not play with you, but we will at least spoil the game for you. Like you were there. So, with that said, let us move on to our spoiler discussions. Carlos, we're going to start with you. You said you loved Raider.
Okay,
So
sure.
he kind of starts off this game for us. So why don't you go ahead and begin with how this game kind of starts off?
So this game begins with a bunch of novelists that have been unpublished. They get an opportunity to go to, I believe, is it Raider Publishing?
Yes.
I
Raider
think
Tech,
so. Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
They get
Publishing.
invited by Super Lord Raider. He invites them over, and they come to this building. It looks super cool, very Los Angeles, and as we get introduced to our main characters, Zoe and Mio, and they're in an elevator and they're just chatting, and immediately after the bat they're kind of like whatever about each other. They're not really like enthusiastic about meeting each other. They get to the top floor, or the floor where they're going to be experimented on for the Raider tech, and they meet Raider, and Raider's been super hyped about this project for 20 years, 20 whole
20
years,
years.
20
He
years.
mentions that quite a few times, maybe like
That
20
became
times.
a running meme with us when we played it. Just like 20 years.
20,
20
he's been
years.
working on this for
20
20
years.
years. So, I mean, I'm not even 20 years old. So, I mean, his project's older than me. So,
Damn.
so basically, all of the novelists get into and get step on this portal, and they're wearing like I forgot if I think they're wearing like some like tech suit, and so Raider
They
uses
got
his
them fancy Tron suits
yeah,
going on.
yeah, and so Raider has them all line up except for Mio. Mio is a little skeptical, so Raider presses a button to put him all in this little fantasy bubble with his 20 years old machine, and
You
he
say it that way. I don't know if I'd go on that machine.
it has 20 years experience, man. You got to trust the 20-year
Oh
machine.
my gosh.
Anyway,
I don't think the machine is 20 years old.
that's
Like,
true. Anyway, but as they're all in their little bubble, Mio's like, I don't think this is really right. Something seems off, but Raider is very persistent in getting Mio in her bubble. Well, Mio eventually like keeps backing off and trips into Zoe's bubble and gets transported to Zoe world through Raider's 20-year-old machine or 20 years machine. So,
mm-hmm.
but so we don't know what Raider's up to. It's really, but he's a smart guy, very very mysterious. So
Mm-hmm.
right off the bat, I'm
Very
impressed with
dedicated to
Raider.
his craft.
Yeah. So that's how the game begins.
Yep. And so they kind of jump into, or Mio tumbles into Zoe's fantasy world, where Zoe's kind of doing some potion mixing, uh, and Mio gets like magical fantasy clothes, and then all of a sudden they're being what is it? I believe there's a glitch that happens, and then they get swallowed up into a sci-fi world instead. And this is kind of like the introduction of the game to introduce you to how the split fiction works, with the going in sci-fi, going into fantasy. I really did enjoy this introduction because it was very fast paced, very a lot of action going on between the freedom fighters and what they call the Brave Knights. The Brave Knights had like a whole bunch of trolls like chasing after you, and this is kind of where we see where people might be able, which character might actually be carrying the other character, or which partner might be carrying the other partner around this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like how would you say like your first interactions with your actual like partner was at this? Like how did you regret choosing the partner that you did playing this game by this point?
Yes.
No. Oh my god. You're trolling. Like the trolls in the level. You're trolling. No, I feel like me and Carlos have been playing video games our whole lives. I feel like we're very experienced and good. He's over there laughing. No. I feel like he was a fantastic choice and partner because we can goof around and we don't take stuff seriously. So if I randomly suck, which will probably come up in Neon Revenge. There was a point I was not very good. Um, we were just like laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
Like we don't get upset or get annoyed or angry or anything. So we were just cracking up the whole time and having so much fun. I feel like we're also very like both of us enjoy exploring. So I feel like we're very big on like, oh, what's over here in this random section of the map, and we just like go off and ignore the main story and stuff. So I enjoyed picking my partner. But I will say, first impressions of the game, I was very opinionated about this. I was the opposite of you. I did not like how this game started. I was not feeling it at all after this point of the game. Like I didn't like the introduction or the concept because I don't know. To me, the concept just felt like an excuse to make two worlds. I felt like it made no sense. Like me and Carlos were talking about it, and we were just like, why would all these unpublished people just jump into a random machine without any, like, no one asked any questions. No one signed some, like,
no NDAs.
Yeah, no indie. No one signed anything in case they get injured. No one asked any questions. They were just like, okay, I'm gonna jump into this machine, like just because this guy said so and invited us over. And the Mio to me was the only sensible one in the whole group. Because I was like, why is everyone else just going along with this without signing any paperwork or reading nothing and not asking any questions? And it just felt like it just seemed...
Raider made it established that it was 20 years worth of experience, in this machine. So clearly, any glitches would be worked out by 20 years.
This is true.
But no one asked. I don't think anyone really asked, like, what's the purpose of this?
Yeah.
Why are we getting in the machine? What's the point? It's just like, I just feel like everyone was like, okay. And I was just like, that's not normal. I would not do that in real life. I'd be like Neo. I'd be like, what is this? So I actually was not a fan of how the story started. But as it went on.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Like, it felt very rushed. Besides Raider, it felt very rushed. But I feel like, again, I agree. Mia is the only one that seemed sensible. Like, it's just like, oh, we're here to get published. Usually, getting published has a different look to it, other than getting into weird tech bubbles. It felt very unexplained. I felt like that plot, like, just as like fast forward as an excuse to get to the game faster. Like, I appreciate it because it wasn't very interesting to me at the time that they did push it forward. Also, I misunderstood your question. When you said you picked your partner, I thought you meant like if you picked Mio or Zoe, and if I liked the person I picked. And at first, I didn't like Mio because I thought she was...
Interesting. Okay.
Oh,
you know what? Okay. Let's move on to that. Well, actually, before we move on to that, Taylor mentioned all her experiences. Would you agree with, what she said in terms of like how the dynamic worked? Were you guys actually good partners together?
Yes, we were good. We were. I would say
blink twice, Carlos, if she's holding you against her will.
I would say I would have not picked anyone else to play this game with. I feel like we had fantastic chemistry the whole time. It felt very natural. We liked the same things in games, so it felt like a natural partnership. I feel like every time we stopped playing, we were like on our phones immediately, like, when are we going to play again? We called out of work 50 times to play more. Don't tell HR. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. For legal reasons. It's a joke. But it was a lot of fun for sure. Like the entire time, and we had like because of like references to, that we'll get into. It was like also like a nostalgia for us too, because a lot of parts of the game reminded us of other games that we played when we were younger. So it was kind of nice that we were the same age. Because we were able to kind of like be like, oh, this reminds us of this game and stuff. And also, I don't know, it just felt very like fluid and natural the whole time. So I would say, yes, Taylor's statement was accurate. I'm not being told to say that via DM. This is my own genuine thoughts. So
All right.
Mhm.
Well, my partner was Stephanie. Unfortunately, she was not able to make it because she, I guess, decided she'd rather go to the Bahamas than record a podcast. So,
Oh, I don't blame her.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Sorry,
I would
buddy.
want to be there
Go
now.
to the Bahamas too.
yeah. But I would say that Steph and I were very good in. We were pretty good partners as well. I honestly would say I was the one that did carry us in a lot of the puzzle solving mechanics, but she would also agree with that statement. But yeah, no, it worked out great. Like we had a lot of fun. We messed with each other occasionally. There was definitely a part, one of the side stories that we just like we had a blast with,
Mhm.
and we'll get to that one when we get there. But no, this is definitely a game where you definitely want your partner not to take themselves seriously. Um,
Mhm.
Mhm.
just because of the fact that there are so many opportunities to mess up, and just little like things that you're encouraged to work together rather than to get mad. Maybe even have just a little fun and maybe like electrocute your partner here and there, or while they're crossing a bridge, all of a sudden make the bridge just randomly disappear, and
Mhm.
things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carlos, you did bring up a point though when you were talking about the character that you chose and whether or not you like them and whether or not they kind of like matched with your personality. First off, how did you and Taylor choose which characters you were going to be?
Taylor chose, and I got the.
Yeah.
She instantly knew who she
No
wanted.
offense to Mio. Yeah, Zoe right off the bat was like optimistic, happy, upbeat. I'm like, that's me. I'm
Yeah.
taking Zoe. You get Mio.
Yeah, and Mio is like brooding, explosive, just like me, so I stuck with Mio.
That's funny because that's actually how the exact same story with Steph and I. Steph, basically, I got Meal because Steph's like, I'm Zoe. I'm like, okay, fair enough, we can do that.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
would you said that Mio was broody and explosive, just like you? Is that an
Oh,
accurate statement? Like,
that
no,
was
yes,
no. It was a bit of
yeah,
a joke, but Mio is
yeah.
definitely brooding and explosive, like as far as like
Hmm.
her temperament goes. And I
Mhm.
did find her to be quite like a big downer, especially on Zoe, who was just trying to lighten up the situation, enjoy her fantasy, enjoy her story, and Mio's
Mhm.
just like basically saying it's stupid. Like, what is the point of all this? And I was just like,
Mhm.
geez, like you're also a writer. Like, you should be able to. I mean, it gets more into that later, of course, but like there is a lot of like immaturity with Mio at first, and like very like abrasive. Like, what is the point of like all these details? Why do you do this? And it was very like, wow, like what kind of writer are you? You can't appreciate other people's writing, at first. And so it didn't. It seemed, and it was that way for a while. Whereas Zoe, while she didn't really appreciate Mio's world, she at least tried to, like, she was at least like more bouncy about it. I felt so I didn't
Mhm.
really like Mio for a while, but I think that it actually worked in her favor as the game progressed.
Okay.
So it was always cool. I liked Zoe the whole time.
Mhm.
All right. Taylor, same question goes to you. Choosing Zoe and like her optimism and like, would you say that like Zoe was essentially you in that game, or you were essentially
Yes.
Zoe?
Yes. I feel like some of the stuff I mentioned is spoilers for later in the game, but um, at the beginning, no, I definitely related to Zoe. I'm very much like a very optimistic person, very, glass half full, positive. I tend to, make humor in situations if something's going wrong. So it's very rare for me to be like, negative or upset or complaining about stuff. So I related to Zoe a ton. As we talk through this, you'll see Zoe talks about having a sister a lot. Uh, I have a sister, um, and much later in the game, you do find out that they were twins, and I have a twin sister. So when that got revealed, I was like, oh my god, like that's me. I am a twin sister. And then one of the levels near the very end of the game, it shows Zoe's constellation. This was big for me. I remember it showed Zoe's constellation, and I was so curious what her constellation was. And I Googled it, and she's a Sagittarius, and I'm a Sagittarius. So it was like the more we played the game, I was like, oh my God, she's like upbeat, positive, a Sagittarius, has a twin sister. So I saw myself in Zoe like almost 100%. Like I related to her on so many levels. And I think that's why her whole backstory and story is extremely touching for me on this game. Like her story made me very emotional. Um, but yeah, I was very happy I picked Zoe.
Nice. Well, I was thrusted into the role of Mio, and honestly, I was okay with that because I would probably fit myself more into a sci-fi world than a fantasy world, even though I, like both
Hmm.
pretty equally. Um,
Hmm.
but I would say that in terms of personality, I think I would actually fit more with Mio. And I understood a lot of where she was coming from. Mio was the kind of character that was very hard for her to get to know other people.
Hmm.
She kind of like, I guess, was more restrained in the fact that like people may not always have the best intentions, and so
Hmm.
you need to keep yourself at a little bit of a distance. Was she pessimistic? Yeah, she was. But you do find out why that was kind of her situation. Um, but it's one of those like I felt more of a kinship to her just because of the things that she went through
Hmm.
and what she was going through and just how her life turned out. That it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows the way that
Hmm.
Zoe kind of made her life turn around.
Mhm.
And it's also interesting. Like out of the two characters, I would say, well, I don't know. I was gonna say Mio was probably the more honest of the characters, but
Mhm.
because in
Hmm.
when you find out about Zoe's situation, you almost felt like Zoe was always running away
Mhm.
from the
Yeah.
things that she was, trying to. Where Mio didn't necessarily run away; she just kind of got defeated by her trials.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But at the same time, that would also make Mio kind of run away from, I guess, the situations that pressure her, or make her like withdraw more. So they
Hmm.
both have their like weaknesses of being like honest with each other, not honest with themselves.
Hmm.
It's I really do enjoy seeing characters that have these kind of human like flaws. It tests
Hmm.
to some very good story writing, in my opinion, especially
Hmm.
when you can relate to the characters.
Yeah.
hmm Carlos, would you say the character you related to most was JD Ryder?
Yeah, I've been spending 20 years of my life trying to build a machine to steal everyone's music, honestly.
hmm
And I'm so close to it. So I'm trying to invite 10 composers to my room to sit in a bubble and put headphones on and steal all their music. Yeah.
Very
For the
I hope
sake
nice.
that
of
works
public.
out for you.
Yeah. So I can put them on
hmm
Spotify, of course. So I'll put them all on Spotify. Yeah. That's my
hmm
motive.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I wish you luck in this endeavor.
This is for legal reasons. That's also a joke. I don't want to steal anyone's music.
Well, luckily, people can make their own opinions, and that opinion is fact according to how the internet works these days. So, congratulations.
You're
You're a
gonna cut
criminal
that
now.
one clip and
Oh
post
my
it
god, I'm gonna get
online
canceled.
of you being gonna steal
Don't.
music.
This guy's music's all stolen.
It's like, podcast is
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Uh,
The
all
jig is up.
right.
All right.
So, getting on to the game, the first real world that we get into is called Neon Revenge. It is a story written by Mio. It is set in a dystopian future where, well, they don't really go into it, but crime plays a major, like, part, like underground crime and debt services and stuff like that. But it kind of starts you off in a pretty cool like level where you're on top of flying cars and trucks and you're trying to jump from one to another. And then this is kind of where you get more into the puzzle aspects, and you each kind of had your own different ability at this point, which I thought was cool. And one of the cool things about this game is that what Taylor mentioned in her spoiler-free discussion is how the puzzles kept on being fresh, because once you've gone through one whole story, they get rid of those abilities and they throw new ones your way, depending on what character you are. So the Mio characters had this anti-grav sword that allowed them to run across walls, ceilings, and like grapple. And remind me again, what did the Zoe characters have?
She had a gravity whip, so she can grab stuff and lasso it and throw it, which was fun.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I do remember some of the puzzles like where like I would have to like grab something and then like Zoe would have to like move that piece and able to get me to like my destination, and things like that. It definitely played out very well, in my opinion. And you keep going until you reach this little bubble, and they call these bubbles side stories. And it's a little injection of the other writer's work, that's kind of like being glitched into the system, and your goal is to go through these little side stories and close them down so that they're one less thing for Raider to take. So the first one was the Legend of the Sandfish, which kind of had a like Prince of Persia vibe on it. Did either of you guys really care for this one? Like, what'd you think about
Yeah, I think because it was the first side story, like it's, we can't compare it to all the other ones because it was our first one. So I enjoyed it just because I was like, oh, this is so unique. Like now we're in a fantasy world again. I did like the Prince of Persia vibe.
The major
Yeah,
puzzle
I
in this
think,
one was this you had this sand shark thing in the sand, and you had to like divert its attention by using these pillars to make like vibrations. And like so like it was very similar. If you played another Josef Feris game, it's very similar to how like Brothers, where you had to divert the dog to one companion while the other one ran to the next one. And that's how this one went. And I gotta say, there was definitely some messing up between me and my partner in this in the beginning.
oh, thing. Yeah, I
This
think
was
me and
definitely one of those.
Carlos. Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say this is one of those puzzles that really teaches you the dynamic of like you both need to work together and able to push through this.
Yeah, I think me and Carlos did it our first try, so I feel
Those
like
were,
we worked
yeah.
together really well. We're
Those,
very talkative, like we are chatty.
yeah.
So we
We're
talked
also,
everything out.
mhm.
What were we gonna say?
We're,
Pro gamers?
yeah. We're professionals.
I
Okay.
knew you were gonna
20
say that.
years of experience.
20
It's 20
years.
years of video games. Dang.
But that part was still stressful. Even though we worked out well together, it was very scary when you were crossing into Sandfish. Like when he stopped smacking the towers, I was like, dude, I don't want to die. Like I was
Yeah.
stressing out. I was like, what?
Yeah. I thought something cool about this one is that it kind of gives you a glimpse into like Zoe world mechanics. So this is more calculated. It's more like there's still like the surfing section with the shark after this where you have to ride the sandfish for a while. But like
Yep.
before that, with you have to like figure out puzzles versus Mio's world. Like at that point, everything's very fast paced. It's very like boom, boom, boom. Like you have to like do one thing, then do another, and do another. Whereas with Zoe, you have some downtime to be like, how do I figure this out? And that was a nice little sneak peek into what a Zoe world's going to be.
Very true. I would say Zoe's definitely came off more puzzle based, where Mio's was a little more actiony, in my opinion.
Yeah.
but yeah, once you beat that, then you get teleported back into the Neon Revenge storyline again, and you meet your very first boss, Mr. Hammer, the Haminator, the thing that always talked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, he talked a lot.
Yeah, he did talk a lot.
He talked. That's one thing about some of these bosses. They talked a lot.
Yeah, this guy really likes to hammer his points home, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's very. You hit that on the nail.
Yeah,
You hit that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, sorry. That. I guess that sentence had a screw loose.
Oh my god. Yeah, prepare for Carlos to see 100 puns in this
So
podcast.
I'm gonna.
All he does is say puns.
So I thought this boss was actually pretty cool. I think this is the first boss, and like I thought all the bosses, and I mean it sticks with the nature of these games. Like the bosses are always really crafty in how you have to combine the two abilities. This is no exception. It was a good intro boss. It was really funny. I just recall like trying to figure out the mechanics. It's nice because just to explain the mechanics a bit, if one person dies or gets KO'd or hammered in this case, then like they're gone
smashed
for a little bit. Yeah, they get smashed. Then you have like a little bit of downtime to respawn, but the other person cannot get hammered before you respawn. So there's a little bit of a buffer. So both of you have to work together, stay alive, and figure things out. If you both collapse, though, there's usually like a very forgiving checkpoint. So, but I thought this one was fun. I thought like the way the boss phases kind of keep going was entertaining. I'm trying to remember like exactly like which part of this boss I liked the most. I thought the whole thing was entertaining. If you guys want to speak to the specific mechanics, you guys are more than welcome to.
I'm gonna be honest, I did not remember this boss.
Yeah, I remember what it looked like.
Look up who Mr. Hammer was. Like now I remember what he looked like, but I don't remember how we defeated him. I'm going to be honest. I guess to me, he wasn't one of the memorable ones. He was very cool, though. I remember when we played it the first time, like, obviously when we fought him, I thought it was so cool. I was like, oh my god, boss fights in this game are so amazing. But I just think so many of the other boss fights throughout the game were more memorable to me because I actually don't remember this guy.
I thought it was like, we were like, whoa, this is awesome the whole time. Like how we figured things out.
Yeah.
Well, there are definitely a lot of bosses in this game. So moving on, once you beat him, you kind of get the Mio kind of gives a rundown about this story about how she needs to get to the headquarters of the crime boss and basically take her out so that she doesn't have to pay some sort of debt, I guess, or they keep mentioning a debt that or a mortgage or some just basically some sort of payment that Mio has to pay. And Zoe gets a little confused about this, and Zoe always had the impression that you write from your experience, but of course Mio, being more protective, is like, no, that's not true. Nothing about this story is about me in any sense. You know, being a horrible liar, though. We all kind of like knew that. But yeah, you move on. You're kind of running through the streets, and you run into another little fun side story. And this one is probably one of my favorite side stories. The side story of the farmland.
This one was definitely one of the most memorable ones. I don't know. I could not believe this side world when we entered. So I'll describe it real quick. But you're piggies on a farm. It's the farm life side story. And in this one, Zoe plays as like a spring pig. It's like a stretchy, springy pig, go up and go down. Mio plays as a farting pig with magical rainbow farts, and she can fart across the room. And I remember when we first got to this level, I was like, why are we playing a level of farting pigs? Like, what is going on? I think
Steph
this side
is
story
very
is
jealous that I got the farting pig. She's like, I want to be the farting pig.
Oh my god. I did not want to be a farting pig. At first I was like, this is so gross. But
you got so much distance with each one.
It's just, I don't know. But this side story is one of my favorite memories because Carlos was just spamming farts like back and forth all over my screen. He was just farting all over my screen. Like, I started laughing so hard. I started crying. I was like, "What is going on in this world?" So
You
We're
had to
gonna
be the fart.
entertaining.
You had to be the farting pig. It was a lot of fun.
we're gonna take that sentence out of context forever now. Carlos was
Uh,
farting all over my screen. I couldn't stop laughing.
it was very funny though. It was very entertaining. I don't think Carlos was having it though. I don't care what he say. I don't care what he says on this podcast. He was not happy to be a farting pig. He was like, "I hate
What?
this. Why am I farting?" I think he was embarrassed to be a farting pig, which I get. If I was the farting pig, I might be that way. But I had spring pig, so it was all good on my end. I will say this story did not go where I thought it was going to go. I
Oh,
thought the
same.
ending. I
You're
I don't
jumping
know.
into that wonderful picnic basket, though.
It was very weird. Yes, you jump into like a meat grinder. You become a hot dog. You grill yourself, cover yourself in condiments, put yourself in a bun. I was just like, when we jumped into the meat grinder, I did not expect that. We were dead and we came out as hot dogs, and I was like, what is going on in this world? What is happening right now? Yeah, so it's very bizarre, a very bizarre ending. I don't know how I felt about
Yeah,
us being like, I'm gonna make myself edible and delicious. Like, I was like, okay.
yeah. It was funny. I thought the developers definitely had fun with this gimmick because they gave the farting 2 achievements, and I was like, wow, you really
Oh
had to
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
there were achievements in there. That's right.
hmm
Remember that?
You had to fart for 2 of them, so you hope you like farting because you're gonna have to do a lot of it to 100% the game. But yeah,
Rainbow farting.
yeah. So
Magical rainbow parts. I
Hmm.
mean, maybe they smell like cotton candy or something. Like maybe they smell like nice because they're rainbow farts and they're magical.
Yeah, there's
So maybe,
well, you
sunshine and
wanna
rainbows,
you wanna
and
go
they smell
smell
like
some
yeah.
apples.
you wanna go smell some rainbow farts?
I-
They were
yeah, if I
probably
was in the
apple
game, I would.
flavored.
Apple.
Yeah, this one was definitely a fun side story. I think it was definitely one of
Hmm.
the like more like not expecting this at all. Like any part of it, all of it was unexpected. I was just like,
Yeah.
what is happening
I
the
liked
whole time?
that it was early on in the game, though, because it
Yeah.
just made me realize
Hmm.
this game is not taking itself seriously,
Yeah.
and I was like, "This is hilarious! Oh my
Yeah.
god!"
And like just to like before we go back into the Neon Revenge, but like the actual like the way it looks is very like I don't know what kind of farms Zoe's been to, but she has a wild imagination. Like it's like there's like a giant pig. There's a like the 3 little pigs. Like you have to like knock down one
Hmm.
of their
Mhm.
houses by farting
Yeah.
into it, of course. And then there's
Yep.
like just so much
He,
color.
he, your pig definitely blows the house down.
Yeah, yeah, that does.
Hmm.
All right, we can we can
You
leave
huffed and
this.
you puffed and you just let it all out.
Yeah, on the wrong end. Anyway,
Hmm.
but yeah, this is a good. I think the gameplay was like a nice break from the action again. Like it was a nice break from the fast pacedness here. Um,
Mhm.
Hmm.
so I thought that overall, like it was like a fun little explory, like um, side questy thing. So it was overall like a really nice break.
Mhm.
Besides,
Hmm.
well, yeah, I will say the farting was fun. Whatever.
There you go. See, be honest, Carlos. Be honest. That's all we ask. So we, as Carlos mentioned, we go back more into the fast pace, and we run into a really interesting boss, a boss that was actually kicking our butt a lot in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning until we kind of understood exactly how the patterns worked. But you are fighting what is called the parking attendant in a parking garage, and
Mhm.
this is a giant orb that
Mm-hmm.
talks a lot about like getting tickets and wanting you to like hold still so that it can like it also had like a whole bunch of like puns related to
Mhm.
parking and uh disorderly conduct and
Yeah.
vehicles.
I think the dialogue was very funny on
Yeah.
that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one was a bit difficult for us. I will say I'm really glad that if one person dies, you can just come back to life while the other person's alive, because I think I died a decent amount on this one. I did my best to dodge all the, because I think this is the boss, I'm remembering correctly. I think at some point near one of the final phases, there's just a lot going on the ground you have to avoid. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
explosions and like shock waves. There's like so much going on you have to avoid.
Mhm.
And I did my best to avoid it, and I would still randomly die. Carlos was MVP on this one. I feel like he like never died almost. Like he was just like dodging everything, and
I
I
never
was
died in
glad.
the
I
whole
was like,
game. What are you talking about?
oh,
That was one of the achievements right
okay,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
I would agree. This one was
Mm-hmm.
definitely harder for the Zoe player, though, because I remember like at one part,
Yeah.
Mia's on the actual parking attendant little ball, and like I
Mm-hmm.
found the shockwaves pretty easy to dodge. But I was looking at the Zoe side. It's just like it felt like there was like 50 thunderstorms, and I'm like, how are you supposed to live?
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
agree. I loved how this boss like was like two different things going on at once with the whole Zoe and Mio, with Mio not only being on the boss, but then also jumping into the boss
Mhm.
and trying to
Mhm.
take the boss out from the inside while
Yeah.
Zoe
Gets
had to do
tortured.
some whip action. Yeah.
Yeah.
She had to do some whip actions, I think, to like
Mhm.
pull something out so that you could like attack
Mhm.
it, and it was a really cool one. And then it, gives you it does a souls like thing and comes up with another health meter, because
Mhm.
you find out that the shell is just a shell and that there's still a core that you have to beat, and that's the one that like was zipping around the screen
Yeah.
shooting
Mhm.
laser beams. And yeah, that was a fun boss.
Mhm.
And then you get to you kind of get into that little water park area,
Mhm.
and that I
Mhm.
thought the water park was a lot of fun. Um, just kind of going. Did you guys go down like the slides and like you know?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
good.
explored a
Yeah,
lot.
we thought there'd be an achievement for sliding on the slide and landing into one of the pool floaties like in the center of it, and we tried many times. We missed
Mhm.
like 4 times, and on the fifth time we got it, and there was no achievement.
Yeah.
And we were like really sad. I was like, "Ugh,
There
Very
should have
we
been an
tried
disappointing.
so
achievement.
hard to slide into that floaty."
Hmm.
But it was fun going down all the slides and playing in the pool. Because I
Yeah.
think you could
Yeah.
sit on the floaties, right? Wasn't there a
Yep.
command?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
You
you could
could.
just sit
Yep.
there. Hmm.
No, and then kind of moving on to the next area, there was that little puzzle where that revolved you getting to the other side of the street using
Hmm.
a whip and a porta potty.
Porta
Yeah,
potty.
I think we did that on accident, and I
We
was.
we did it on accident. Yeah, because Carlos went into the porta potty, and I was trying to kill him on purpose. So he went in there, and I just grabbed it and threw it, and then he landed on the other side, and I was like, "Oh!" And we were like, "Wait, is that what you were supposed to do?" Like I was like, "Man, it's trying to be evil."
Hmm. No,
Evil
I
genius.
actually I thought of that actually, like we were trying to figure out how to get around, and
Hmm.
then like
Mm.
I'd realized that she could throw the toilets, and I'm like, wait a minute, what if I get into one of the toilets and you just like throw the toilet? But
Mm-hmm.
you had to do it in a different direction to get the next side story. That was called the mountain hike,
Hmm.
Yes,
and
I
this
think
this
the.
uh, no, go ahead.
Sorry. I would say this we missed this one on our first playthrough.
Same.
Um, because we did not throw it in the opposite direction. We just obviously we went straight through it because I was messing around and we threw him across and we just continued. And I remember after we beat the game, I think we were missing two side stories after we beat the
Hmm.
whole game, and that was one of them. And I was like, oh, like in my head, I'm like, I would never have thought to turn around there. I don't know why, because I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, this was a more cinematic side story than
Yeah.
anything. It was
Mhm.
like not, it basically involved a bunch of giants helping you get across a
Mhm.
mountain. And again, this a lot had a lot of references going back to the brothers and the part in brother. Did you either you play Brothers, A Tale of Two
Mm-mm.
Sons? No?
No.
Okay. For our listeners who did or who might have listened to the Brothers book club, there was a part that involved working with giants to kind of get you forward. And that's what this level really reminded me of. But it was definitely a lot more cinematic. It was cool. And again, a nice little break from the sci-fi, I thought. But this was also
I
probably
thought,
one of the more least memorable, in my opinion.
yeah, this might be my least favorite in the whole game. I was like, to me, it was boring. Like,
Yeah.
we did it, and I was like, okay, we didn't miss much. Like, after we went back and got it, it was just very straightforward. Like, they just toss you around, the giants toss you around the whole time, and then you finish the level, and I was like, okay, didn't really do too much in it.
Yeah.
It was cinematic, which was neat, but
Mhm.
you don't really do anything because the giants are just throwing you everywhere. So I thought, yeah, it was okay. It was probably my least favorite, I would think, out of all the side stories.
Yeah. It was a giant not let down, but I just wanted to make a pun play. it was a
Mhm.
it was a I guess a giant pace killer from the Farm Life one, because Farm Life is so funny and it's like
Mhm.
charming, and it has like 50 achievements that you have to get by farting,
Mhm,
and then you just run on giants' hands and get tossed around. It's like there's not really
mhm,
much of a storyline. It was just like this is just for fun.
Yep.
mhm,
So
Just let's show the cinematic storytelling here that Ferris is
mhm,
yeah,
known for.
I just didn't really
mhm,
get the point of it. Like normally the side stories have like a memory attached to it or like some kind of like motivation,
mhm,
but this one was just like, oh, I just wanted to do it. And so
Hmm.
I didn't really feel much of a connection to it. Maybe like the listeners
mhm,
found the connection, but I didn't personally see a lot of significance to it. Whereas the others had at least some small level of
mhm.
significance. So
Strangers may be big and scary, but not all of them are out to get you. In fact, some may just want to help you.
I'll buy that. I'll
You're
buy
like,
that.
yeah, yeah.
That
Well,
is
He's like, yeah,
well,
sure.
yeah, that's a giant overreach there.
uh, well, we're kind of getting close to the end here for this chapter. There were some vehicle parts in it. One that involved Zoe driving a car,
Mhm.
which we died a lot in that part. I don't know how Taylor's driving skills were, but Steph's driving
Oh,
skills were pretty bad.
oh, okay. This was my worst moment, I think, in the whole game, and I was having flashbacks. I told Carlos about this afterwards. There's a ride at Disneyland in the Star Wars section where you have to drive a car with your friends, and I did that in December because I went to Disneyland for my around my birthday, and I was in charge of driving, and I was horrific at it. I was like crashing into every single wall. I couldn't make it through the gates that were closing. I was like killing us 100 times, and I just couldn't do it. So I had flashbacks to that when we did this because I don't know why, but I'm horrific at driving cars. And I was like trying to jump from airstream to airstream, and I would overshoot it and go off and just blow up. I would jump straight into buildings. The part for me that was the funniest is there's this one part where you're driving and the gates. Oh, I think it's going this way. It's like closing, and you have
Hmm.
to go into the center of it. And the first time I did it, I drove into the gate and I blew up. And I was like, oh man, this sucks. I was like having flashbacks to Star Wars ride. And it made me laugh because when you respawn right in front of the gate. And I was like, perfect, got it this time. Like immediately, and I was like, I suck at driving this car. I'm so sorry. I killed this so many times. It was embarrassing, but we were laughing the whole time. But yeah, it was just really bad. I don't know why.
That's okay because it switched roles later on when you guys got a bicycle,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then Mio was the driver. And while Mio was driving, Zoe got to do some very interesting things with the phone because there was a self destruct feature on this bicycle.
Yes,
So,
I am so curious. Does Steph solve it 100% on her first try?
no,
Like, okay, I didn't.
she did
Yeah,
not.
uh, I did not realize how long it was. I got mad because oh my god, I was laughing so hard that it was the whole, use your face scan your face, little captcha things like collecting.
Mhm.
So I was actually doing it and I was like, oh, where are all the trains? The giraffe one was a trick question. I'm like, there's no giraffes in here. And you skip it. It's like, correct. I got to the final page where you have to do terms and condition and stuff. And I checked all the boxes and I was trying to continue and it wouldn't let me continue. And it wasn't until we went back, because it's for an achievement. It wasn't until we went to the achievement that I realized you actually had to click on the terms and conditions and read through like
And
8
read it
pages
just-
of it. Yeah.
Yep.
So I got stumped there because I didn't know I had to read it because I checked all the boxes and I was like, continue, like unlock, and it wasn't unlocking. I was like, what am I doing wrong? But
Just like some
that
video
one's
games
really
now.
hard though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was
Mhm.
really hard to actually get the achievement because I looked up what to do to get the achievement and I still failed like 3 times. I think I got it on our 4th try when we went back because we did the platinum
Mhm.
for the
Yep.
game, so we went back to do that. But it was actually very hard even if you know what to do because after you do the terms and conditions, there's like a password input and I think it keeps auto-correcting your password and I think it auto-corrects it 2 or 3 times.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like the first few times I did it, I ran out of time because I kept auto-correcting my password and we still failed. And then, oh my God, it was stressful. The final time we did it, I put in the password. I was like, oh my God, we did it. And then it was like a 15 or 20-second like updating or
Yeah.
processing your thing. And I was like, this is not the time to process. Like, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
It was very
super
funny though, very
cool.
entertaining.
Yeah. I had to also remember that I had to like drive efficiently, so I couldn't watch her screen. Like she almost got it one time, and I accidentally crashed, and it destroyed our progress because it checkpointed back to like to make it undoable, which made me sad. So
Oh yeah. That was the hard part with the achievement. Yeah, it's like
Mhm.
if I failed and we purposely restarted from the checkpoint, it was impossible to do it because it would give you like 15 seconds to read through terms, condition, password, autocorrect, and countdown, which is physically impossible. So
yeah,
we kept having to restart from the whole prior checkpoint and get all the way back there every time we failed. And I was like, man,
it took
this
forever.
is
There was
annoying.
a lot of driving. Yeah, good thing I'm a good driver. We never had issues
Yep.
with driving.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kidding.
you
I
are.
agree with.
Yeah.
No, I did crash a few times. Yeah. All right.
Well, at least you're honest. Where I got it on the first try. Flex.
Wow, look
Sorry.
at that.
Yeah. Literally and figuratively flexing right there for those who are just listening to that on the podcast feed and not watching it on YouTube. Anyways, we're finally at the end where we get to fight the crime boss, and we fight her on this giant tank that then also becomes like a little walker thingy, and you get to fight her while on the motorbikes, which Steph was like freaking out first, but then she realized that wasn't
That
as
part was
bad.
cool. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It was so cool and so fun fighting on the
Mhm.
bikes. I loved it. Yeah, that was a good
Yeah.
one.
So I think that fight. I remember Taylor sending a reminder her of a boss from Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Praxis, I think.
Me?
Yeah. Did you say it reminded you of Praxis?
Quadraxis?
Quadraxis. Sorry, Quadraxis.
Oh, it might have. I don't
Yeah.
remember what I said. Perhaps I did say that, but I don't know. I'd have to look up the boss. Was it because it was big and
Mhm.
like
Big legs.
walking around? Might have.
Mm-hmm. No, Steph and I did this really cool thing though, where we actually both, like when you knock out the legs and the boss falls, and you have this chance to like take these ramps, and then you like jump over it.
Mhm.
We both literally did it at the same time, so you see both our motorcycles crossing while dropping
Oh,
our
that's so
bombs. Like,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah. I would.
it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I would say Taylor carried this one. I remember dying a lot in this one and being like
He
getting a
did.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different from the
Wow.
previous boss, man.
Wow,
Alternated.
you were
Yeah.
quick to jump on that. He did. He died all the time. I should have played
Makes
more
me feel a little
Metroid
bit
2.
validated.
Yeah,
Mhm.
should have played more
That
Metroid
one
Prime
was
2 Echoes.
super fun. Yeah.
Yep. All right, and then we finally realize that glitches are our friends in this, and we can break the system and finally get ourselves out of the simulation if we just find more glitches. But then Raider on the other side is like, no, don't do anything. We will figure this out. But of course, your characters are like, no deal. We ain't talking to you because you're trying to be bad, and we heard you're really trying to steal our ideas because we hear everything in this machine.
They
Yeah.
should have thought
Apparently,
of that in
Raider.
the. Oh God.
I said, apparently, Raider is a bad guy, and he just wanted to steal ideas.
You just wanted to publish them, man. What's
Mhm.
what's your deal? Just want to get them published. But also, that's kind of a big oversight for 20 years of machine building. So I don't know. Maybe it's his character weakness.
Oh,
Mm.
calling him out.
He can't be perfect. He's got to have a weakness.
You know,
Anyway.
I feel like this is almost a metaphor right now for what's going on in the entertainment industry with the whole AI situation.
Oh yeah.
About
That's
how
exactly
Yeah.
what Carlos said.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm gonna bring
just
it
the
up later.
idea that we're taking original ideas from people, but we're feeding it into a machine that will then replicate those ideas for others' benefits without creative. You look like you want to say something.
Yeah. Are you dissing my homie Chat GPT?
Yes, I am dissing your homie Chat GPT because I've never used Chat GPT in my life.
I have not either.
Mm,
All right. Hopes
yep.
of spring.
Okay. Well, I will
So,
say before we move on, I thought, I don't know. I know Neon Revenge is like the first world in the game, but after that world, I was like hooked. I was obsessed with that world. I thought the whole environment and everything was so freaking cool. There were so many sections where you did like crazy split
mhm.
screen things, like one was above and below or something crazy, and I don't know. It was so well done, so cool. I just remember there were so many moments I was just like taking screenshots of the environment and just being like, this is amazing.
Oh.
They did such a good job on this game. I will say, back to our powers, I did my favorite thing about the gravity whip was when you grabbed enemies and threw them. I think what's it called? The
The
Wilhelm
Wilhelm scream.
scream.
Yeah, they had one in
Yeah,
there.
that was like the best part. I was just flinging enemies everywhere, and they all scream when you toss them. And I was like, "This is the best." But no, it was a very, very, very good first world, in
I
my
agree.
opinion.
Yeah. I will say, going back to like how the environment was so cool. So in each world, they have benches where you can have like a sit down
Mhm.
moment and kind of reflect for a little bit.
Mhm,
And so you kind of get to hear
mhm,
a little bit of like their inner thoughts as they pause for a moment. And each world has a bench, and seeing how these conversations play out, well, also it also does this cool graphical thing where like it merges the two
Mhm.
screens into one.
mhm.
It's super cool. It's worth finding all the benches. Plus, it's an achievement, so you have to do it anyway. Um, but yeah, that
Yeah,
part, the benches are cool.
we missed
That one
one.
was. We actually missed one too, and yeah, we just missed one, and I was surprised we missed it because it was in a level, an area I really liked, and I was like, man, we must have just. Well, actually, after we went back and got it, it made sense why we missed it because there's a huge puzzle you do, and the bench is kind of secluded out a back door, and you're not
Mhm,
supposed to go
Mm.
that way. So I
mhm,
was like, oh, that makes sense why we missed it. But yeah, actually, the bench scenes are some of my favorites because every time they sat on the bench, I feel like there was just a nice connection between Mio and Zoe,
mhm,
whether they were talking about their past or stories or life or just taking a moment to breathe.
mhm.
I really liked sitting on all the benches in the game.
Mhm.
They were having a connection because they were connecting the screens together.
There was definitely a bit of a metaphor going on there.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, so we kind of find based on Neo Revenge that this was a story that was inspired by debt.
Mhm,
Um, and that
hmm
there is something going on with Zoe, or not Zoe, with Mio, that she might be in debt, but we're not quite sure what that situation is yet. We won't find out until her second story. But now
hmm
we jump into Hope Springs, which is Zoe's first story.
Okay, so the next world we went to is Hopes of Spring, which is Zoe's first level. So when you first enter this, you're in like a big kind of like forest area, giant trees. It just looks really lush and relaxing. In this one, both Mio and Zoe get like two different types of abilities. So for this one, Mio gets to be this like I thought it was an axolotl but it's like a weird sea creature. It's not an axolotl. It's like a weird axolotl sea otter creature thing. But
Yeah.
Mio gets to be that and like swim in the water. And I think her other abilities, she can turn into a gorilla. And I remember Mio was very upset. Oh yeah, because I think when you spawn in the world,
she wakes up as Donkey Kong.
Yeah, and she's so upset.
She's not happy.
Zoe's abilities, she gets to be a fairy, which is one of my favorite abilities in the whole game. You get to be like a little tiny fairy. I think it's very cheap for puzzles. You just jump across all the gaps everywhere. I remember Carlos was getting very annoyed with me because he would have to like jump like a normal person from pole to pole, and I'm just like beep 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 like across the gap, like bye.
But you were Donkey Kong. You got to like climb on the walls and like monkey swing on the ceiling.
Yeah, but I couldn't smash Taylor Fairy, so it's not worth it.
Understandable.
Zoe's other ability, she got to turn into a tree, which had some really cool abilities later in the level, which I'll get to that in a second. But when you do start here, I know Zoe does kind of talk about a little bit of her backstory of what inspired this. And it's like a theme in all of Zoe's stories. As you'll notice, she always talks about what inspired her for the story. And for most of the time, it is her sister. And this comes up in conversation because early on in the level, you do see a tree that has the names Zoe and Ella carved into it. And that's when Zoe begins to tell her story, like, you know, the name of the tree is like an old tree her and her sister used to climb every summer. She's trying to give some backstory onto it. At this point in the game, Mio's not having it. She cuts Zoe off. She was just like, she's not interested in hearing it. She just wants to find a way out to get back into real life. You know, she doesn't care about Zoe's, like, you know, it's, you know, reasoning for writing this story or whatever. You could tell Zoe seems pretty sad or dejected that Mio is like not interested in that. And I feel like these moments become more powerful once you kind of find out more about Zoe's story and like why she's trying to share it, and whatnot. But yeah, the level was it's really cool. Lots of fun puzzles. I know later on there's one puzzle where Zoe as the tree, you get to control like a gigantic log and spin it around, while Mio has to like avoid hitting like spikes and stuff like that. And I thought that was actually really cool. I liked controlling all of nature essentially through Zoe, and doing like neat things like that. There is one super fun part you get to in the level, which is the silly monkeys part. Because once again, Zoe will explain a little bit of a story. She just say like there was like a zoo her and her sister always went to, and there was a monkey, you know, they always fed. And then one day they put that monkey down, but she wanted to like, you know, memorialize it. So she put it in her story, and we're gonna go see this Monkey King. And I remember you have no idea what to expect when you're on your way to this Monkey King. And I really thought it'd be, I don't know, some monkey warriors or something like that. And you
definitely not how it was.
Not at all. Yeah, you show up there and it's just like he's like Funky Kong. He's just like, yo, what's up? And like very funny. Monkey. He was like a disco monkey, yeah. And you ended up having a dance off, which I had so much fun doing. I was curious, like, what were your thoughts on that, Patrick? That part?
It was very much like a Simon Says, and it was super easy, but I like rhythm games like that, and just like they build up that momentum of like the different moves, like da da da, then da 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 da. You know, that's always been fun. And then they also had that like snake mini game too, where you realize that if one of your monkeys touches the other person's monkeys, they all of a sudden just went like monkey shit crazy.
Yeah, I remember that part.
We did so good on that until like the very end. I accidentally smacked Carlos's thing, and I had probably 20 monkeys. I had like a full thing of monkeys, and I accidentally ran into Carlos's line, and they just everywhere. And I was like, oh man.
To be fair, we were owning it and didn't even know that was a mechanic, so it's not our fault. We were too good.
You were just so good.
Yeah. Yeah. That the dancing thing was fun, but I thought it was too short. Like,
Yeah, same.
I liked all the fun music they were playing each round because it was like different genres of music, and I didn't like that it was only three. Was it three things
Yeah, it was
leading up
only
to the
like
next
3
song?
games.
Yeah, and it was like I don't know. I really wish it went on longer, as in like way more copy moves. Like you would have to copy like
Mhm.
8 dance moves or something. I wish there was more rounds per thing because I felt like it went by so fast. I couldn't really appreciate any of the music that was
Yeah.
playing, and I was enjoying it. And it was just like, oh, next genre, and it was super fast. The next genre,
Mhm.
and I was like, I want more rounds. I want more
Mhm.
fun listening to the music. Um, but yeah, that was a super fun time, and I really liked that she incorporated the monkey like that in the game.
Yeah. I really like how Zoe's worlds incorporate just different parts of her life in so many different ways. Like there's nothing
Mhm.
really goes to waste, like how she really enjoys nature. So there's like one part where you have to hatch an egg by working together with Mio's and Zoe's skill
Mhm.
to like hatch an egg by like I think launching a log at it or something like that.
Yeah,
But
which
yeah.
I
Mhm.
thought was gonna smash the egg and kill it, and it just hatched it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that but I think that like the way
Ste- I,
Zoe
I
so
was guiding Steph on that one. She didn't realize what I was doing. She's like,
No.
I'm like, okay, now what you need to do is you just need to pull the log and release. And she's like, what? Oh my god! What? You know?
Because it really does
yeah.
make it seem like you're gonna smash the egg, and I'm like, why? I don't want to kill the
Mhm.
egg. Like,
Yeah.
I can't. What can you say? You can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs.
yeah, but I do agree that I do like that Zoe's worlds they all incorporate parts of her life, and
Mhm.
that comes up many times in just this world alone. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, which is really nice. Um, yeah, it's also evident when you continue in this world. So kind of like the main story of this world. I didn't mention that at the beginning, but you're like in the hopes of spring. It's being taken over by an evil ice king. And as you progress through the level, you eventually reach like a mountain of snow and ice. Absolutely beautiful castle and stuff.
Mhm.
I was very happy when I got here. I was like, oh my god, this castle's so pretty. Mountains and snow, gorgeous sunrise or sunset. I remember I was taking so many photos of like the environment and everything.
Mhm.
But your purpose and mission on this story is to save the hopes of spring by destroying the evil Ice King. And this whole time leading up to there, you're like, oh man, this has to be like a really big, bad, evil guy. And eventually, after solving some puzzles, when you get through the castle, you stumble upon this super cute little kitty. And Mio's all sitting down, petting it, thinking it's so sweet. And that's when Zoe is
Mhm.
like, no, that is the Ice King. You got to back off from the cat. And Mio doesn't believe her until the cat starts speaking and pretty much is like, pet me or die. And Mio's like,
Give me
whoa.
cuddles or die.
Exactly. I'm like, whoa.
It's it's
Uh,
it's just like a cat, though.
I
I
was
mean,
about to
it's a
say,
perfect description.
it's like a cat in real life. And then that turns out to be the Ice King, which ends up being the final boss of this area. The cat ends up turning into like a giant saber-toothed tiger for the boss. And then you have to work together to defeat the boss. I don't remember too much of the mechanics of this boss fight either. I don't know if Carlos remembers it very well, what we had to do to defeat the
Um,
saber-toothed tiger.
I do recall having to use the axolotl form to go underwater and get something for you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it was
Um,
usually like launching some sort of ball that
mhm.
then Zoe's character would collect and toss.
Yeah, with the tree,
Hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I
with the
know.
tree, yeah.
I don't remember what the gorilla did. I feel like the gorilla just did the usual smashing, but
Yeah, I don't think the gorilla did much on this one. It was more
mm.
the gorilla jumped up and like tried to beat the because the weakness was the gem, and so the gorilla had to like get the
Oh,
gem off.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
It was fun. I remember it being fun. I remember I was happy that the axolotl got to be useful because it could only really swim.
Yeah,
So
he was
Yeah.
complaining he felt it was useless. The axolotl is a useless ability. I'm like,
yeah,
oh.
it was. There were some parts of it that were pretty cool, but I liked
I
playing
mean,
as the
you got to
axolotl.
be
It
the
was cute.
chauffeur for Taylor's character for like a lot of those axolotl parts.
That's true. There
Like
was a cool
you
part.
got to carry her for most of that part,
I already
literally.
carry her in the game, so it's just more what I
Oh
do.
my god. It's
Mhm.
kind of funny because there's a sci-fi level later on where you also a boat thing for me and you have to carry me. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny
Yep.
how that's just like a reoccurring thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think
Mio's
that
got to carry Zoe.
yeah, there's this
Mhm.
cool puzzle. Speaking of the axolotl, there was a cool puzzle where like I think Mio had to stand on these like sinking poles, and the axolotl had to carry them in time before it sunk,
Yep.
so that Zoe could jump around and stuff like that. I
I
thought that
remember dying a few times though. But I think that's because we didn't realize
yeah, we didn't
right
know.
away. Like I was
Yeah.
like jumping on the poles and then they were sinking and I was like, Carlos! And it was not in time.
Yeah.
I had to sink.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you got eaten by them piranhas.
I know
Yes.
I got so used to like water being dangerous in this game that whenever we would go to a world or side story where the water wasn't dangerous, it threw me off. Because I remember me and
Same.
Carlos were always like, "Don't touch this, we're gonna die."
Yeah, like
Because
how's
it
the
just
water
happens
gonna
so often. Yeah.
Yeah. How's the water gonna kill us this time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did like the end of this Ice King one that when it reverts back to a kitty cat and Emil starts getting like, oh, it's a kitty, and so he's like, nope, go, scat.
Yeah.
Don't be fooled again.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this
Oh, you can continue.
I don't know. Any of these, there were 3 side stories on this. One was kind of a shooter, like it was a gliding thing where you're trying to get a train. Another one was a game show where you tossed the bomb around until you could get to the bucket while fighting off the giant computer. And then the other one was the collapsing star, which had that exploding thing that you had to always hide in a barrier. Any of these like stand out?
The collapsing star for sure. I thought
Yeah.
was so freaking cool
That was
because
cool.
that one it was intense. It was like you could feel like every time the sun was like, like it was just like so intense, and I was like, I liked. Oh yeah, we were talking about the sound design. I feel like the collapsing stars when you realize how good the sound design is in the game because it was amazing the way they made it sound when the sun would do its like waves. And it was just intense. I remember every single time we were so scared of dying, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like we had to run behind this gate. Or there were times where like I had to unlock a gate and he had to run, and I was so scared we were like gonna die or accidentally kill each other. But no, I thought it was just so cool. I had so much fun with this one. I thought it was just very intense, very epic, and I was like, "This is really fun."
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. With everything Taylor said. It was like I think for me like just the impact of the sound of like how it's like and it was just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like I felt like my computer was gonna blow up and I was like, this is crazy. But it was I feel like that was one place where the sound design just popped off. Like they knew what they were doing. They knew how to exactly how to make that environment work. My favorite personally in this one was the game show. I really like the bomb mini game, the passing the bomb from
the hot potato.
Hot Potato. It was funny. The host is really funny. Oh, something from Neon Revenge I wanted to mention that the hotel attendant that you could beat up for an
Oh, the
achievement.
robot you can
Oh
beat
yeah.
up. Oh my god.
Yeah, it reminded me of that. That was really
And then
funny.
the hotel attendant killed you
Yeah.
with
We
lightning.
did not. Yeah, we didn't do that the first time because I thought it was mean. Because first of all, Zoe can't even harm it. Like Zoe can't even harm the attendant. Like not that I wanted to, but Carlos went up and was
Clearly you
whacking the
tried though.
attendant. Well, only after they get the achievement. I didn't do it the first time. I ignored the attendant. Carlos went up and smacked it and made like a sad face, and I was just like, "That's so mean. Stop hitting the robot." So Carlos
So
did
I
not
stopped
die
hitting
the
the
first time.
robot.
Yeah, so he stopped, and then later on we went back to get the achievement. And that's when I tried to do it, and I was like, "Can't even do it anyway." But it was funny watching him blow up. I didn't expect that. I was like, "Oh, okay."
But yeah, I felt the same vibes in the game show where like you had the evil game show host. Like that I thought that was pretty funny. It was a good diversion. It was like not really competitive, but it was like fast paced and the achievement of not dropping it once was really was like it had my adrenaline pumping.
Yes.
Yeah, I imagine that would have been hard because we dropped the ball several times in our try for that.
First try.
Uh-huh. First try.
We almost
No.
did it first try, but oh my god, there was one part we were doing. Okay, it makes me laugh with Carlos. I think it's like the second round. There's like walls. There's like a wall in between you guys, and you're supposed to jump up into the air and toss it
Yeah,
over the
it
wall.
took us like 5 minutes to realize there was a freaking wall there. Like, it's like, what the heck is going? Just because I don't know,
really?
neither of us realized there was a wall there. Like, we just kept trying to toss into it.
Yeah, I was laughing because this was when we were going for the achievement. So we already knew there was a wall there. And Carlos is like, "Oh, here you go!" Throws it straight into the wall and blows up. It's like, dude, why did you do that? We know there's a wall there. Like, he was not even thinking, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Good times.
Yeah, I guess my knowledge hit a wall.
Mhm.
The train heist. To be honest,
I
that one was
don't
a little.
remember. I don't remember the train heist one.
I
which is
remember
bad.
it was a gliding one, but it was like just okay.
There's some gliding thing, and then it ended with a side scrolling shoot 'em up.
Oh, this was the one in the water, right? That that I think I kept being like, I'm in wave race, and I was just like constantly jumping and like flying off stuff on purpose. I kept dying over and over because I was not taking it seriously. Like Carlos was like trying to focus, and I was like, look at me, I'm like racing. I kept blowing up. That was a fun one, actually.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. Steph made the same analogy too. She's like, "This is wave race." It's like,
good times.
All right.
Yeah.
So now we jump into Final Dawn, which is the infamous sci-fi where it's like the whole army's jumping into like a planet that's a threat, and of course everyone dies but the main characters. And so your goal is to stop this toxin from being made and stopping the robots from having their way with destroying humans. So the abilities in this one was both the characters had guns, but they also had bombs. And I actually don't think there was a unique ability to either of them in this one. It was just guns and bombs, and rotating between red and blue. I would probably say this was probably the least favorite of all the stories for me, just because most of the levels kind of felt generic, and it used a lot of that same red and blue mechanic of like, oh, the red shield's up, use the red bomb. The blue shield's up, use the blue bomb.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
It did have some good side stories, in my opinion, though. In this one, you had the side stories of Kites, which was a race, and one that I easily creamed Steph on. Like she maybe reached about halfway by the time I reached the finish line.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Ours was pretty close. Carlos was beating me at one point. We were really close. I feel like I was like losing by a little bit, and I'm a sore loser. So
which is funny because Zoe is a sore loser.
Yeah, and we didn't know that till later because I won. So I didn't know she was a sore loser. But yeah, we were like really, really close. He was slightly beating me, and then he made a mistake. I don't know what he did. I think he missed something and fell down. I forgot what happened. And then I got ahead, and I won. And he almost caught up. I don't know how. I got so far ahead of him, and then somehow he was like catching up to me. And I was like, I swear to God, if you beat me, I'm gonna like be so upset.
Yeah.
But I ended up winning. Yeah, I was getting I was getting a little bit annoyed. I was like, I want to win this so bad. So I did end up winning. But it was funny because afterwards we went back and looked up some of the alternate cutscenes in the game. And so one of the cutscenes we watched showed Zoe losing. And yeah, she was a sore loser. She got so grumpy, and I was like, ugh, I relate because that would have been me if I lost, but I didn't. That was a good one, though.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. It was fun, even though I let Taylor win.
You did not let me win.
You're a good man, Carlos.
yeah. Gotta do what I do.
The second side story is probably one of my favorites, right up there with Farmland, and that's the Moon Market. And this was a Harry Potter inspired Halloween town / hats, like little ghost kitties. And there's so much that you can do around the market itself, such as using the potions or the balloons. I don't know what the balloons did because that was actually Steph that worked with the balloons. And one of the things I did was I hopped on one of the snails and I literally rode the snail to the other parts of the level. Steph's like
Oh, really?
trying to.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Steph's like trying to paint the cat, and she's trying to get me to paint my part of the cat. And I'm like riding the snail all the way to the puzzle.
I host Silver. I'm on my way.
I remember that. Yeah. That one was really
What's
fun.
funny is that you could actually slip on the trail slime that that the snail leaves.
Oh, that's so funny.
I did that.
That one. Oh, sorry. You can go first, Carlos.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay. That was probably my. I don't know if I would say favorite. I have to think about all the side stories. Either my favorite side story or one of my favorites, but it was for sure in the top because same as you and Steph, we spent probably like 15, 20 minutes just in the marketplace, like before we even advanced on, because we were like making all the potions. We found the magic wand where you could turn each other into like weird objects like a snail, not snail, like a frog, a chair. There's just so much to do in that little plaza, and we were just goofing off and having so much fun with that.
Yeah. I turned into a chair and Taylor sat on me.
Wow.
I did.
And I think you get an achievement.
You do get an achievement for that. But yeah, that was probably the most fun I had like in any of the ones, because it's just like it was just fun goofing off and doing all the different things, and like going to every stall and being like, what's this one do? Like, what ability do I get with this stall? Yeah, we had a ton of fun in that one. I made sure I got the pink cat because the first cat we went and got was the yellow one. And then the next one we were going after was pink. And I was like, I better get the pink cat. But I made it clear. I was like, I want the pink one. So Carlos made sure I got the pink cat.
For my own good.
So I was like, I just had the pink cat following me everywhere. And I was like, oh, I love this so much. Yeah, this level had the Elden Ring reference, which I didn't get because I've never played Elden Ring. Did you go to that part of the level?
I don't. Which part was it?
There's a part
I might just not caught it.
Yeah, it's off to the side. So it's like when you're on your way, I think, to the yellow or blue cat. But if you go to the right, there's like a path that leads down into the cave. And then they have the like bonfire thing. What's it say on the screen? Like you both sit down on it, and it says
you're talking about something found or something. I'm gonna look it up. I know you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't recall this.
Yeah, I talked to some of my friends and they skipped it too, and I was surprised.
It says Moonfire Lit.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, it's like an Elder Ring reference, I guess, because you sit down at the fire and it pops up and it says whatever lit, and your character.
And you can sit there. Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, I didn't play the game, but Carlos was like, "Oh, that's a reference," because those are like, I think, save spots or resting areas in the games, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." Yeah, I liked this one.
Same. I think also I remember that one of the potions you can drink turns you into like the other character, and they make fun of the other character. Yeah. So I remember like I was watching some of the cutscenes, and like one person stayed as a fake Zoe like for like a very long time. It was really funny. I was just like, wait, which one's Zoe again? It's funny. So this one was just fun. Like they had I can tell the developers are like, we just want to do like a world where you can do what you want to do, like whatever, like really mess around with the mechanics of the game and like the physics. Like when you turn to a fat person, like you could like blow yourself, like become
like the
like
balloon.
Oompa Loompa. Yeah, that was kind of funny. When you Oompa Loompa'd around and like bounced around, it was funny. And then like you had the part where, like, for like when you're rescuing one of the cats, where you had to draw to unlock a part. Like you had to draw a cat, and then they let you draw your own picture, which is pretty cute. So That part was really fun. It was
Yeah.
a very cute world.
Oh. Yeah, we Steph might have drew a few penises in that game
Oh
during
boy.
that, and then we just added to it like little hair curls and
Oh my
other
god.
things.
Oh my god.
We
We
drew like wholesome stuff, like a
yeah.
heart and cute stuff with.
Adorable.
But I will say,
Just
I feel like it's very evident to me that I like Zoe's side stories way more because I just feel like
Mhm.
all of Mio's side stories tend to be actiony,
Mhm.
and I feel like a lot of Zoe's are more fun and silly
Mhm.
uh, to me.
hmm Yeah, the last one was the Notebook, which was
Oh,
this
that was so fun.
interesting. Yep, where you played on words and things change depending on I guess the mood of
Mhm.
the Zoe at the time. Like,
Mhm.
oh, they were this. No, no, they were that. No, you fought a giant. What was it? It was a giant.
A
What were the
duck
things
or
that you
a
fought?
crab or a
Oh, it
That's
was
right. There
demon.
a
was a dog.
demon crab or a duck.
You know what? We never fought the demon. We fought the frog and we
Oh my gosh,
fought the
same.
duck.
Um,
Uh,
we did the same thing.
oh, the
The
crab. The crab. We
yeah,
did the
crab. Yeah,
giant enemy crab. Yeah.
yeah. The first one we picked was the duck. And then after we
hmm
defeated the duck, it's like, oh, you can pick again. So we thought you would go through all of them
Mhm.
because it made us choose again. So we're like, oh, we'll do the crab this time, do the demon last. And then you don't do the
hmm
third one. And I remember I was
Yep.
so upset because I looked up, I Googled what the demon looked like afterwards. And I think the demon looks so freaking cool
Mhm.
that I actually
Aw.
wish we did not pick the duck. I thought the duck was by far the lamest.
Yeah, it
The
was
crab was cool, but the demon was
I
very
like that
cool. So
was
I
a
was sad.
giant enemy crab
same.
because that's
Yeah.
the E3 reference.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Taylor was pretty crabby that we didn't pick the demon.
hmm
Yeah, I was very disappointed we didn't get the demon. So if I played it again, I'd for sure do demon. Um,
One would say she
but
was
I,
fucking mad.
oh
Ducking
my
mad?
Fucking mad.
Ugh. I'm gonna.
god.
I, I
That's up
tried.
your alley. That's totally
Yeah.
I'm
something you need
sorry.
to say.
It just quacked me up. I'm sorry.
Oh, look at
Oh, the double,
this.
the double, the double ducker.
hmm
Oh my god.
hmm
But I loved
I'll
this side
I'll let you
story. I
give you the bill
actually,
later.
oh my
Oh
god.
God,
It's
pun
so many
demon,
puns. Oh my
pun
god.
demons here.
This is why you guys are be good friends. Just puns
Aw.
all the time. Oh my god.
All right, you can take it away, Taylor.
Uh, I
Before
was just gonna say, yeah. Before you continue with any more puns, no, I was gonna say I thought this side story was so creative and so neat. Like I liked the art style with it, the sketchiness, and how it was like her process of writing a story. Like she'd write something, then it'd be
Mhm.
like that doesn't make sense and erase it or whatever. Like I thought it was super fun. I really liked
Yeah,
this
the
side story
music
a
was
lot.
super funny in this one. Like I think when you rescue the prince at the oh, there was a really funny part where like you see the prince you're supposed to save, but you have the bow and arrow, and you can just keep shooting the prince with arrows.
Hmm.
I might
It's
have
really-
The
did that.
hostage, yeah.
yeah, the hostage. Yeah, but I
hmm
remember when you save the prince, like it turns in from 2D to 3D, but it's still like in the
hmm
notebook style. But there's this really
Hmm.
funny like Renaissance style music playing, and I just couldn't take it seriously because it was so goofy with all the story. And like I think Zoe's carrying the hostage back to the ship or something, and it was like
Yeah.
Hmm.
so funny. It was it just came
Yeah.
together so well.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, the thing out of the side stories were definitely the more memorable thing of this chapter, but I would say the actual story that this
Mhm.
chapter was later based on is probably where you really start understanding Mio's character and like just what everything was going through. Like we knew she had the financial troubles. We now find out that the level is really based on her father and her
Mhm.
father
Hmm.
being hooked up to machines and having a bunch of poisons, give like used on him and experimented, and that she just wanted her father to have that moment of freedom. That was portrayed as the rescue of the alien octopus at the end.
Mhm.
And that was definitely like you knew something was up, but you understand now that the reasons Mio's so closed off is because the one person that she looked up to the most in her life was, on was passing away. Like obviously it's probably cancer. They don't say, but it's most likely that because of being hooked up to machines and
Mhm.
being pumped up with poison. So,
Mhm.
and as someone
Yeah.
who has lost close, friends and relatives, it's a hard thing to process. And
Mhm.
we understand now that Mio decided she wanted to write because that was her coping mechanism.
Mhm.
And that's why the stories didn't necessarily have a direct impact into her life, just because she needed to write something, anything to get her mind off of it. But this
Mhm.
story in
Mhm.
particular meant something to her.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
Hmm.
that this was like the first time I cried in the game, but yeah, that was very emotional when you find out everything about her dad and what's going on and what she's dealing with in real life. So
Mhm.
like I really like I can't relate to it because I haven't been through that personally, but like I was still very empathetic and I felt so bad for Mio's character. Like yeah, I got emotional. I was like it's like really tough to deal with.
Yeah, I think the metaphor of her dad being the Kraken was also like very
Mhm.
like it was made me curious like why she saw him as the Kraken like as like a and I
Mhm.
don't know if it's because of like if this is how she sees him after being injected with all these drugs to save him. It was definitely like a nice little sneak peek of how Mio really feels about
Mhm.
things and like her dad saving them just like her dad saves her was very
Hmm.
emotional for me. So I think that it was very great because Mio I wasn't super fond of for the first couple of worlds, but then as she became to open up a little bit in this world, I started to be like, that makes sense. Like I get her now. Like I start to really enjoy her character more.
Mhm.
Um, and she starts to finally have someone else with Zoe seeing more of her inner self. Like she starts being nicer to Zoe and letting her in more, and like Zoe's more understanding as well, and realizing why she writes
Hmm.
this. So that was very
Mhm.
cool narrative wise. Real quickly, just before we move on, the bosses here were pretty fun. I thought like there was the one where you have to like grapple and like slide across the level, and then you have to like launch the other person to like across the.
Hmm.
That
Oh,
one was yeah.
yeah, that
The
one was
overseer.
super fun.
Mhm.
Yes, that one was super fun. I liked that boss fight a lot.
Yeah. I liked how the level like kind of started falling apart. You'd like figure out new ways on how to like get to the boss's weak point. And I thought that each of the
Hmm.
bosses, and then there was like the one where you were being chased by like I don't know what it was called, but it looked like a big angry T Rex bulldozer thing. And it would switch from like 2D to being chased.
The Contra boss. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That
that
one
that
was cool.
that was directly that was tied to or not to Super Contra.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Got it. That one
Hmm.
was cool. It was also a really funny, like not funny, but it was a the way it ended with the head being like squished between
Yep.
the gates was like, oh my god, so me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna like I just want to like mention the bosses real quickly, and I did like
Hmm.
how even though the power up was kind of basic, they did find cool ways to like use it between Mio and Zoe. Like you had to like open a pathway for Zoe, so she could open one for Mio, and you also had the
Hmm.
jetpacks. The jetpacks are pretty cool. Um, and you can like boost with them, and you had to like go through like
Oh
red doors as a
yeah,
Neo and blue
this
doors
the
as a
level of the
Hmm.
spinny metal thing that went down. That would murder
yeah,
you.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah. It was. I don't know. I thought like even though it wasn't the most exciting power up, the way they
Mhm.
used it was I thought pretty smooth, and the way they interlapped like Zoe and Neo having the same power because I think it's the only time in the game they do that is was pretty cool how you had to use
Mhm.
this like figure out like oh you could do this with your color and I'll do this with my color and
Hmm.
then you're working kind of the same brain kind of. just different.
And you have to do it like super
Mhm.
fast too, because you were both like wandering the same path at the same time, and it's like blue, red, red, blue, blue, red.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it was cool. I
Yeah.
liked that a lot. It was very action packed.
All right. Rise of the Dragon Realm.
Yay! This one, before we start, I will say the introduction to this world was so funny because I think this is when they do Zoe's Sailor Moon transformation, like spinning,
Yep.
like posing. I thought that was so funny. Oh my god, I was like, I love that so much. But no, this world was, I think, one of my favorite worlds. I love this world. It's the Rise of the Dragon Realm. When you first enter here, pretty much you walk around and there's like a dragon statue that speaks to you, and you get 2 dragon eggs. And kind of the story of this one is you're supposed to save the last 2 dragons from extinction. And you find out that there's a big giant evil dragon named the Megalith who got corrupted and just went on like a killing spree. So throughout this whole realm, you're taking care of these 2 dragons, and it's just so cute and so fun. You start off and you both have little eggs. And then as you continue, they hatch, and you have like little baby dragons of certain abilities. I think Zoe's had like a tail to hook onto walls. Forgot what Mio's had. What was your little baby dragon? Oh, gliding.
She can
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you could glide. And then the more you continue, the
Oh,
dragons get
Actually,
bigger again.
it was rolling first, and it was gliding, if I remember, and then you got the tail, and the other one got the acid spit.
No,
Oh.
rolling is later on. Rolling
Yeah.
is Zoe's when it got bigger.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
he's not
that's
big enough
adult
to roll.
dragon.
Okay,
Yeah.
so acid spit and rolling hit. Okay.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
right, you
So
did have the tail.
yeah. Yeah, so when you continue, the dragons get bigger. They grow into like medium adult dragons, and that's when you get the acid spit for Mio's, and Zoe's gets the rolling one, which I loved the rolling one. I'm like Sonic the Hedgehog. I was rolling everywhere, no matter what. I was just spam rolling across all the levels. I love that ability.
Here, Carlos and I are trying to catch up with just.
Yeah, we hit the Knuckles glide.
I felt bad because I would like spin so much faster ahead, and I'd have to sit there and wait for him to catch up. Yeah, it was super fun. I liked doing the puzzles in this one because I think the acid can melt metal stuff, and the spinning could break crystals. And it was just like fun doing like certain puzzles and stuff like that. And then eventually, when you get closer to the end of the level, your dragons enter a pool of gold, and they grow into super big, awesome dragons. And that's essentially what you go to the boss fight with. You both have like giant swords, like epic badass swords, and you both have big dragons that can fly, and you just fight the megalith until you defeat it. But it was super fun. I will say one thing I liked about this level was Mio's development, because she did not like the dragons at first. She did not want the baby dragon. She was like, oh, I don't know, and she was scared of like the medium adult dragon, like, oh, it's gonna get me. And then by the end of the level, when they get into big dragon mode, she's like the first one on it, and she was like, this is awesome, like, let's go, like. And I was like, that's development. Now she's in love with dragons and saving the world. Like, it was great. But yeah, this one, I guess we could talk about the side stories first. So the side stories in this one were Slopes of War, which was like a snowboarding one, Space Escape, and the birthday cake one. That one was trippy.
Yeah.
What would you say? What was your favorite one out of these ones, Patrick?
I would probably go with the birthday cake, just because it reminded me of the Mario level.
Yeah, it's like Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
But then it also takes that really, like, you knew because it was Mio's story that there was going to be some dark twist to this somehow. And you got that in the form of the dentist.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was creepy. That dentist was creepy at the end of this. I was like, whoa, no wonder she had a fear. Like, that's what her mind conjured, was this creepy dentist guy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was an interesting one.
I loved how when you fought it and then you finally like turned the drill and the dentist's like, oh gosh, this hurts so much.
Yeah. That was a funny one because it did not like it was so unexpected just because of all of Mio's are more sci-fi-y, and so when you enter that world, I'm like, whoa, Mio has this cutesy, colorful world. What is going on here? Like,
Yeah, we
uh,
were like, are we in the wrong character? Like,
This was one of her
um,
first stories.
yeah, I remember that when she was a kid.
mhm.
Slopes of War was fun. That reminded me of like all the snowboarding games, like Snowboard Kids and whatever ones you do tricks in the air and land or whatever. Same thing. That was another competitive
Mm-hmm.
one. I absolutely kicked butt. Was not even close because I'm sure Carlos will tell you what his problem was with that.
No, it's fine. She won fair and square. I didn't know that
Okay.
whenever you fell over, you would lose your points, and I was just like, "Wait, Taylor has way more points than me." And then I was like, "Oh, my numbers are falling off my screen when I fall over." I thought I kept my points, but no, you have to actually like be
Very.
timing it so you land on the ground. And I didn't do
Yeah.
that
That's why I
because I was
said I
half
feel
level.
like I don't know, because like it reminded me of Snowboard Kids, and that one you
Mhm.
have to land your tricks to get points. Like if you wipe out, you
Mm-hmm.
wipe out. So I
Yeah,
was like,
so
in my head, I knew you couldn't do that.
so technically Taylor was cheating because she played a game 20 years ago.
No, I was
So
not. Oh my god. I dominated though. I was very happy. I
yeah,
was landing some like
she
sick
was
tricks and getting a bazillion points, and I was like, this is awesome.
she was so happy to see me lose so hard.
Who won of yours? Between you and
I
Steph, Patrick.
I did.
Patrick's like,
It
of course.
wasn't too much of a contest.
Mm,
Sheesh.
poor
Nah,
Steph. Poor
She's not even here to
Steph.
defend
yeah,
herself.
it's okay. She would agree. Always says that she's started games late, so she isn't quite at the gamer level at me, and I keep letting her know she's doing pretty good. You know,
Mhm.
for someone
Hmm.
who's only kind of been gaming for like the last 5 to 7 years. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
but she
Very
she
nice.
really enjoyed a lot of this.
Hmm.
She hated the space escape though.
Oh, that one was
She
stressful.
that one just with the whole like losing oxygen and like trying to run to those
Yeah.
tanks.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a bit stressful.
Eh, and another sound design choice too. Just with the whole how it goes silent when you're in space.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that was it was all right, but
I would say the
the
birthday
I'd
cake
one.
was
say
good.
Hmm.
Space Escape was one of my least favorite ones, I think. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't very memorable or fun to me. I was just like, okay.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm stressed out. The side story.
Yeah.
So yeah, it didn't really have much of a backstory either, but I think overall it was still pretty fun. It was like an interesting gameplay loop. I
Hmm.
think Birthday Cake was probably the winner here. Snowboarding, Slopes of War. I really liked losing to Taylor. It's 10 out of 10. Would lose
Hmm.
again. Um, uh, but yeah. These
Yeah.
it was. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm gonna wrap up the world so we can move
Mhm.
on to the
Hmm.
next world. Um, but no, this world was a this was a big one for Zoe. Both this one and the next one.
Mhm.
I feel like back to back, like Mio's was a big reveal on her backstory, and then this one is too. After you defeat the dragon and you bring peace to the land, which I like how Mio finally starts coming around to like happily ever afters, and she's like, you know what? It actually, it feels pretty
Hmm.
good when you save the day,
Mhm.
because she used to be against that type of stuff. But in this is when Zoe kind of does a plot twist or shocks you, and she reveals that her sister Ella actually died when she was 12 years old. And so far this whole game, we had like guesses throughout. We kind of guessed early on Ella had passed away. Like I thought it was kind of obvious her sister had passed away since the beginning, but the way she talked about Ella was like in present tense, like, oh, my sister, whatever, my
Hmm.
twin and stuff. So
Mhm.
it wasn't really in past tense. And I think in this level is the first time she said, oh, Ella would have loved this. And that's when Mia was kind of like, would have, what are you talking about? Um, and that's really sad. So that's when Zoe opens up that, yeah, Ella passed away. and this dragon story that she wrote was supposed to be her and her sister Ella represented as like the dragons, and it was supposed to show them kind of like growing up together and having their happily ever after like life together, that she couldn't give Ella in real life. And I thought that was pretty emotional and really special. And I feel like it kind of does a good job setting up the next one too, because in this scene, Zoe mentions how ever since Ella's died, she's felt hollow on the inside. And when we get to that world later on, Zoe's final world is titled Hollow. And you're like, that's technically how she feels after Ella's passing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was just like a big one for Zoe's character.
I agree. Good summary there. I felt like just like after seeing Zoe kind of mask the whole game, like seeing her finally be able to trust Mio enough after Mio was warming up to her storytelling style and like starting to finally show herself, and Zoe started to kind of take off the mask. They kind of switch places. Like Mio becomes more like the positive one, and Zoe's kind of begins to realize, like, she starts to show her more negative traits. And I felt like that was a really good contrast as they continue to develop and show each other like different sides of themselves. With Mio, she's growing alongside Zoe, but Zoe's kind of like now beginning to kind of not crumble, but just show the darkness that she has, which she was hiding before because she's been running away. Before we move on, just wanted to note some of the gameplay things I liked here. Music was really good in this. Music's good in the whole game, but it was really fun in this one, very fantasy like. But I really like the Pokemon evolutions. I always joke like you start off if you're a Charmander, little baby Charmander, it becomes Charmeleon when you get the rollout and the glide abilities, and then you get Charizard after it's in the gold. So that was always kind of cool to me. I really like that. But I think the overall, like how the bond gets stronger kind of mirrors how Mio and Zoe's bond has been getting stronger too. It was cute how Mio had the Ella egg. So it's kind of like a little parallel of what Mio's becoming to Zoe, even though it's subconscious probably at this point. So I thought that was like a nice little parallel. And yeah, overall, this is probably, I would say this is probably my favorite world. I liked it a lot. It was very adventurous. The puzzles are very, very, very fun in this one. Using your dragon powers and having them change and evolve over time was really cool. So,
yeah, I will say this also kind of because I know throughout the game Zoe's always talking about like, oh, we write, when we write, we're putting part of us into the story, and we were trying to figure out like why is Mio writing all these like actiony or crazy or dark stuff, and Zoe stuff is always so positive and optimistic and happy endings, and I feel like this is what, when you kind of figure out why Zoe, that's her coping mechanism with what happened, is she writes all these happy stories with happily ever afters that are upbeat and positive as her way to cope with what happened in real life, because then she can give a good happy ending in her stories, that Ella and stuff and her didn't get like in real life. So I like that.
No, I definitely say the stories are definitely getting a lot better with the character development. So the outside story at this point is that Ryder's basically been failing at containing the situation. He gets told off by his
HR,
his board. Yeah, the HR, the board. Everyone's basically like, you're done. Like, pack it up. Like, turn off the machine. And of course, because this was 20 years of his life work, he needed to see it all through. So he pushes the machine to the point where it sends both Zoe and Mio to their subconscious. So now the levels aren't based on any stories, they're based on how the character perceives themselves. And for Mio's, her story is called Isolation, which takes place on a prison ship. And you're trying to, you hear a voice that needs to be freed, and you are going through this to free this prisoner that's somewhere in this ship. Now you do have a really cool ability in this one, the drones. I really like the little Metroid balls.
Yes, I love that so much. I'm like, it's Metroid Prime! Or like spider balls. Oh my god. Well, mine was a spider ball. I think Carlos had a
and ours
weird...
was
Got a
literally
bug ball.
spiders.
Yeah.
You were a
Yeah.
spider ball, and we were literally spiders.
Yeah.
But we also had a hacking ability with ours. So that was actually pretty cool. And probably my favorite part of this was the pinball level.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was so cool.
That's cool.
That was so cool. Yeah, I love that too. Yeah.
It was nice to, after the whole game being abused by Taylor, I could ping pong her wherever I want.
Just paddle her around, and finally you got to control the level.
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed being. I enjoyed being the paddles in that one as well. I can only imagine how long that would have taken if Steph was the paddles.
Taylor and I had good pinball chemistry. We were getting it pretty fast. I'd say. Yeah. I was a good pin, and she was a good ball. Dumbest thing ever. But I thought overall the Metroid Prime ball section was pretty awesome. Like before the pinball part, there was the stealth section where like I had to like shoot the cameras.
Yeah.
And Taylor had to like stealth her way through it using her spider ball and boosting power.
We got to the shot put part, and same thing. We thought that would be a hidden achievement because you can. There was a part where you could launch something. Like I launched something, and Carlos could.
Oh yeah, the skee ball, the clay pigeons.
The clay thing. Yeah, I was just like, so we thought that'd be an achievement, and we tried forever, and Carlos could not hit it. He tried like a million times, and we couldn't hit it. And we Googled it, and we realized it wasn't an achievement. I'm like, okay.
I think I actually did end up hitting it. Yeah, I hit it 1 or 2 times, like after like 10 minutes, and it was like nothing happened. I was like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah, it was a waste of time. I was like,
there was
okay.
There was another one I thought that was maybe the sci-fi chapter before that was like a shooting range. Was that an achievement? There's like a little hidden area with a shooting. It was like a shooting range, where you had to shoot these like, I don't know, they were dummies or whatever. The red and blue dummies, and like Zoe's character had to hit the blue ones. Mio's had to hit the red ones.
Oh no, I don't remember that being an achievement.
Okay, good, because that was a pain in the ass. Anyways, isolation. You finally get to the center of the prison. Zoe had a bad feeling about it, but Mio needed to see it through, and we find out that inside is Dark Mio. Basically, all the negativity and like insecurities that Zoe like pushed into herself, that was what was inside of her subconscious, and they just let it free. And then this kind of was in the boss battle that was very similar to the parking attendant, where Mio fights the boss inside the boss while Zoe kind of fights it on the outside. And then you also did that little Ganon mechanic with it too, the volley.
Yeah, smack it back and forth. Yeah. Yeah, this is I think this is my favorite boss battle in the whole game. I thought it was so freaking cool and epic. I thought Dark Mio was dope. She whipped out her scythe, and I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, scythe was just so cool.
So Taylor, I don't know if anyone knows this, but Taylor loves Genshin Impact. And so Dark Mio reminded her of Arlecchino.
Yeah, Arlecchino, because she's a scythe wielder. But she was just cool. I think scythes are cool just in general. Like my favorite weapon in any video game is a scythe. If I can use it, I will use it. So when she whipped that out, I was like, Dark Mio, you're so cool. I can't even hate on you. You're just so cool. But that was a super fun boss battle. Like I liked it a ton.
Same. I also really enjoyed it. I agree. It was probably my favorite one. I thought the Zoe part, ironically, was more entertaining than the Mio one because you had to do a lot of dodging. You had to kind of like
you were like doing stuff on the inside where I'm like trying not to die and go from platform to platform and avoid being. And I was like, okay.
We had to avoid the eye lasers. in ours, where the eyeball would come out and start like, was it eye lasers? There was a lot going on in
There's
that
a lot going
mind.
on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like something that was really interesting in that level is that, like, I felt like this is something I'll bring up in the recap, but like Zoe's power in this world just felt like it did so much versus Mio's power of hacking, where you couldn't really do much unless you had an object there to use it on. But Zoe's magneto powers were like very useful for like random objects and like combat and like exploring. So I thought that Zoe had,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So
I liked
I,
my magneto powers because you like hover between two walls.
Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm.
you're like magnetized. I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Mio could become a boat.
That
Oh,
was true.
Mm-hmm.
You got to
And
carry me around on the boat.
yeah. But I also had to become that like weird extendor machine. And I didn't like that because Taylor spanked my
Oh.
butt and sent me flying.
Oh yes, I remember that. I hit
Yeah.
you and you're like get launched. Oh, I forgot about that completely.
Yeah.
And you didn't
That was
get your
funny.
revenge by trying to prod her with with your pole.
Oh my god. Phrasing.
You didn't give her the shocker treatment.
No, we had to go back for that achievement.
Yeah.
Which was
Yeah.
actually harder to get than we thought because he kept smacking me like 20 times and we did not get the achievement.
Yeah.
And it took us forever for me to get knocked down for whatever reason. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it was weird. But she just kept smacking me when I got it wrong, so smacking me off the platform.
It was
Well,
very entertaining to see him fly, like to launch him off the side, and he's just like, and I'm like, okay, bye.
Yeah. But when we actually took the game seriously with that, it was actually a pretty cool puzzle because we had to like extend it
mm-hmm.
enough to get Taylor to like, or Zoe to like go past like a maze, like a death maze and whatnot.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. There was another puzzle I thought were like, I don't know what it was. Like it was like the laser traps, and I think that either Zoe or Mio had to like keep an area lit up or something like that.
Mio was the light, and
Yeah.
Zoe had to go across the lasers.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I had to hack a light, and I was like, "There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust in this one." Yeah.
Was it? I think at the end, right? Because don't you have to? Gosh, I think at the very end, Mio gets stuck and the lasers go invisible, and you have to try to remember where to jump. And Carlos didn't stand in a correct place, so he
No, I
was like,
didn't. I blew up.
he jumped into the laser.
Yeah.
That's why you put the light right where the spot was, so you know where it was.
Listen,
He did that the second time.
Yeah.
He made a little boo boo.
Just a little boo boo.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. He lived, he learned, he got teleported back again.
That's true.
Just like your characters get teleported into Zoe's subconscious.
Oh boy, I feel like there's so much to talk about in this one, but I'm going to try to keep it short because it's like I feel like so much happened in this world of all of them. So this is the final world, I think, right? And after this, it's the epic showdown. So this one, you're in Zoe's subconscious. It's called the Hollow, and immediately upon entering, it's like super dark and ominous. It's like scary. It's very un-Zoe like, and you're like, wow, this is very dark and creepy. And like usually she's like, oh, fantasy and stuff. So this one was really cool. I actually liked the level design of this. It reminded me a lot of like the underworld in like Greek mythology, and whatnot. And I was like, oh, this is really, really cool level. So which is very dark and evil looking at it now. I was like obsessed with the design of it. But yes, as you're going through the story, you do find a mosaic at one point of her childhood home. And Mio's like, oh, that's your home or whatever. And you can tell Zoe is not happy about going back. And I think she makes a comment like how her family moved away from there after her sister passed away. So you could tell she just has like negative memories attached with the childhood home. At one point through the level, you do run into spiritual guides. Oh, I forgot about our abilities. I'm so sorry.
You're kind of getting into it, though. You're getting into it.
I'm getting into the story. In this one, I forgot we got our spirit guides as our abilities. So Mio had like an owl, like a white spirit owl thing, which I was obsessed with. I was actually extremely jealous. I thought the owl was way cooler than the fish. Zoe gets like a spirit fish, which the owl just makes like beautiful noises and screeching, and is like magical and majestic. And I didn't really like my fish, but it's all good.
Had the power of light.
Yeah,
I had the
It was
power
so
of
cool.
Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of be the light bringer. But yeah, Mia's was cool. Her owl would enter into like, what were they, like little orb things, and it would create light as like a floor for you guys to walk on. And Zoe's was like, her fish could create like a portal on the wall, and it could pull gold stuff towards it. I do remember finding the puzzles in this super fun and very unique, especially with the fish ability. This one, even though I thought the owl was cooler, I thought the ability was not as exciting because he just made floors to walk on, whereas like the fish, you're actually like pulling stuff. And I think there was a point where you're in a boat and the fish pulling the boat along.
But the owl can only shoot the ghosts.
As you continue through the level, eventually you reach a part where you run into 2 centipedes, and eventually, like, Zoe's like kind of weirded out by them, and then they speak to you, and you find out that they are going to be your spiritual guides through part of this level. And this part is super fun because you and Mio, both Zoe and Mio, end up riding on the back of the centipedes, but it's a connected centipede. So you're trying to get through these puzzles together, even though you're connected. So if one pulls more, it'll pull the other one, and if one pulls, So you have to be very good at working together and communicating to make sure you're on the, same idea and stuff, so you don't pull someone else into the lava. I think there's one part where you're going through like a path on each side, and if you pull too hard, one can fall into the lava. There's also other fun parts where you're swinging like between the walls. I think
Yeah,
like
that part
let
was
go and catch and let go and catch.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Very fun though. Like I enjoyed this doing the centipede stuff.
Don't forget about drinking the water in one end and having it come out the other.
I completely forgot about that.
God.
That was weird. I thought that was a little weird, to be honest. I was not. I was
strange.
like, whoa, it's a little too much. I forgot about that completely. But that was fun because I do like that it was like a new part in the middle of the level, that didn't use your basic abilities. You're doing like centipede stuff and working together. So that was fun. After a while of the centipedes helping you out, you come to find out that those centipedes represent Zoe's mom and dad. And I actually thought their speech was very heartfelt. They're kind of, they kind of tell Zoe like they tried so hard to make her happy again, but it's up to her in the end to be happy. Like they can't make her happy. She, the one, can make herself be happy. And, and they kind of tell her, don't give up on herself. And so I thought it was a really nice speech from them because they're trying to support her in getting over her guilt of what happened to her sister. And then this leads to the boss of this one, which was the Hydra. In this one, I'm going to be honest, it starts off with such a traumatic scene. You like show up at this big body of water and you see the house in the center, and it's Zoe's old childhood home. And then you see Ella in the water drowning, and Zoe tries to save her again and fails again. And I'm honestly shocked they put that in because I'm like, the amount of PTSD that would give someone, like she already watched her sister die one time from drowning, and now in her subconscious, she's reliving her sister drowning in front of her a whole second time. I'm like, that's traumatic. Like that's insane. And Zoe has like a breakdown. That's when she reveals like what happens with her sister. Like it was her idea to go to a river. Ella slipped and fell in, and you just find out this whole time Zoe has pretty much been blaming herself for her sister's death this whole time, and she's been holding in so much guilt about this. But yeah, this the Hydra battle was interesting. I remember when me and Carlos got to it, I told him all I could think about was the Kingdom Hearts quote from Phil, the get up on the Hydra's back. I was like, oh man. And so I knew when you would cut these, because I know the purpose, like when you were doing the boss battle, you guys kind of like combine your like pendants together and your spirit animals.
I kept
cut
on
off
going,
the heads.
Wonder Twin powers activate.
Yes, activate. But it's like, I knew that the heads would grow. Like, we cut off the head. I'm like, I've seen Hercules. I know we're going to get more heads. And that's exactly what happened. It was just like, oh,
Yeah.
more Hydra heads. More Hydra heads.
She called it.
Yeah. And then eventually Zoe ends up losing her pendant and she drops it. And then one of the Hydras swallows it. And I know at one point in the boss battle, you end up getting swallowed whole by the Hydra that has the pendant. I thought this part was really gross and disgusting. You had to traverse through its body to try to find the pendant and escape. And I'm like, ew, I don't want to be in here. But I will say this leads to one of the like most emotional scenes in the whole game for me. Back-to-back emotional scenes. At this point, I think Zoe gets like lost in the darkness and she's like calling out for Mio, and Mio she's like the source of light for Zoe at this point. And Mio is trying to get the Zoe and she's like, hang on, I'm on my way. And Zoe's like, I can't take it anymore. Like, where are you? I need you, or whatever. And it was just really emotional. And eventually Mio gets to Zoe and brings her the light for them to like escape together and defeat the Hydra. But I remember crying. I got teared up at this point. I don't know. It was just very emotional having Zoe feel so like defeated and struggling and just calling out for help. And Mio's just like, hold on. Like, I'm on my way. Like, trying to bring her out of the darkness and be her source of light. And I thought that was very powerful. The music was so good. It was phenomenal music, and it just made me very emotional. And I was like, this was such a powerful point in the whole game.
Massive turning point for Mio's character for sure as well. Just because you said it, Mio went from being someone that she didn't want anything to do with people to being that source of comfort and need to save Zoe. Like 180. Gotta love it.
Yeah, that was really great. After that, you do end up defeating the Hydra.
By getting on its back.
You guys shoot, huh?
By getting on its back, of course.
Oh, yes, that's what we did, yes. That's totally how we defeated the Hydra. Once you defeat the Hydra, you get kind of like teleported or taken to Zoe's childhood home. And so it was like back-to-back emotional stuff with this. I was like, oh my goodness. They get teleported to Zoe's childhood home, and Ella's there, I think gardening or playing or something like that. And this is where Zoe has to kind of confront Ella and her guilt and everything she's been feeling over the years. Same thing, extremely emotional. Ella ends up going up to Zoe and giving her a hug and telling her it wasn't her fault. And she kind of just needs to let it go and move on. And it was just a very hard scene. And I just feel like I relate to Zoe's character a lot because I have a sister. And I always say, like, if anything ever happened to my sister, I would be inconsolable. I'd be a wreck. Like, I don't know how I'd even go on living. So Zoe's character was very relatable to me. And I think that's why this scene hit me so hard, because I'm like, if I lost my sister and if I felt that guilt, I would not be able to handle it. I'd be like not crying all the time and blaming myself. So it was just really nice scene. I know it ended, they all kind of like held hands, and Zoe said she was going to try her best to move on and not blame herself anymore for Ella's passing. And that was kind of the end of that one before we're tossed back into the final end of the game.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the final showdown.
Final, isn't it countdown?
Show.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
final countdown. Well, we are counting down against Mr. Raider himself, who is now super mad and somehow decided to literally rip open the bubble and jump in himself. So now there's 3 people in this bubble. But one of them is a god!
Yeah, Raider is so upset because he's the best character in the game, and they just completely wrote him out for like the past 10
They
hours.
destroyed 20 years of
20
his work.
years!
Yeah.
20
So,
years.
20
The best
years
20
his
years
life
of
is
his
destroyed.
life taken
Yeah.
down in one day.
He's also in the middle of getting arrested, and like everyone hates him from his company now, and he like destroyed all his computers. So he's not in good shape, you know. So he decides he's going to take matters into his own hands because he really wants to accomplish his dream of plagiarizing everybody to make a lot of money, because that's what makes a lot of money. The New York bestsellers.
I mean, heck, I guess you can still make royalties in jail.
I think you can actually. But yeah, you know. So this part was pretty cool. I guess he splits up both Mio and Zoe together. I don't know why I took over, but
No, go for it.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
this is the
We
Raider
saved the
part
best
of the
for
game.
that's true.
We saved the best for last, Carlos. Go for it.
Yeah.
So Raider puts Mio and Zoe into their own thematic area, but Mio is in the sci-fi version and Zoe is in the fantasy version. And this part's pretty cool because you have to use sci-fi elements to get past fantasy elements and vice versa. And you have to communicate. So at this point of the game, you have to really be in sync with your partner. This is why Taylor and I just breezed past it. Our chemistry maxed out. Our gameplay maxed out. So
we got caught up on the fish.
The fish?
Yeah, the little bucket. Steph is like, you have to go over here. I'm like, where the hell are you? Because I'm on the turret and she's like trying to fill up these fish buckets so that we can take out a fire. But it's like,
oh no,
it's like wasn't paying attention to where she was on the map until you know. Finally, she's like guiding my camera to like point out, okay, I'm over there somewhere. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
we can work with that.
Yeah, it was cool though because you really had to like trust the other person's like what they're telling you, because I wasn't really looking at Taylor's screen. I was just trusting what she told me, and I was like, okay, cool. I think the only part that was a little tricky was the part with the piranha plant where you have to like tell it to like it was following Zoe around and you have to like command it. Yeah, that part was a little tricky, but it wasn't too bad. But other than that, it was pretty much seamless. So after you get far enough, Raider is just like, you guys are too good at this video game, and he's just like, I'm just gonna beat you up now, and basically start doing some boss fights. And when the boss fight works is there's some parts where you fight Raider directly, and there's some parts where he like warps how the game works. So like I think it gets kind of crazy here. Like Taylor is starting to get motion sickness at this part where like depending on where Mio and Zoe are, the shift like moves around. And
it wasn't this part. It was it was trippy though. Yeah, I did get a little bit of weird dizziness at one of the later parts. But this one was just more trippy because the screen was like moving and I was like, this is trippy. It's so weird that it's not constant.
And meanwhile, Raider's attacking you with like shooting giant projectiles at you, and depending on which side he shoots it on, you have to dodge it a certain way. So that was kind of cool. Hey, how you have to like know which part of the world you have to be paying attention to, so you can dodge or move properly. So that was pretty cool. It was a cool like mechanic. You're not directly fighting him yet; you're just kind of like trying to get to him. Then after you fight him one time, he splits. What he does is that he puts one character in control of the whole world. So like Zoe is controlling Mio's world and having to manipulate the world for Mio to get through by like it's kind of like with like having an iPad. You have to like manipulate the items on the iPad. Yeah. But then with Zoe, when it's Zoe's turn to be in the world, Mio has to rotate the iPad. And it makes things move up and down.
Oh, and is that the part? Yeah, I don't have motion sickness in real life. Like I just don't have it, and I felt nauseous like at that part because I was playing as Zoe inside the thing, and Mio is tilting it, and so you just see everything tilting and moving while I'm in it, and it was making me feel dizzy. And it was making me feel nauseous. And I was like, I don't have motion sickness. I never get it. And so it just surprised me. And it made me wonder if people who are more prone to motion sickness, who actually have it, would have a very hard time with that part, just because I'm not prone to it, and I was feeling sick from doing it. It was just way too dizzying trying to play through a level, and he's constantly moving it or whatever, and I was like, I don't like this. I did not like that. It was creative. It was super creative, but then I was like, can we just finish this level? I'm not feeling
Yeah, I had to go slow because like I was like getting dizzy and I wasn't the one in the world, so it was really trippy. There was another section before that where like Raider splits it into like 4 sections. You get like, and he rotates which part you're on, and depending on like, it was top down view, and you had to
this
dodge
is a
depending
cross
on
section.
the cross
Yeah.
section. That
That
part
one
was
was
cool too.
fun. Yeah, that
one
was cool.
It was like Mario Party.
It's like there's piranhas now, grass. Like,
Yeah,
what's coming up next?
yeah. And so then you finally get to the final boss fight with Giant God Raider. He's finally maxed out 20 years of power-ups, and you get, and then after a while of dodging, because he's like shooting like all the stuff you found throughout the worlds at you, and you have to like dodge them, and then after a while you get machine guns, I think. Was it machine guns? No, it's like those like what are they called? The
Rail
artillery
cannons, I
guns? Rail
thought.
cannons. Yeah, rail
Or
cannons.
either rail cannons or the Gatling guns.
Gatling guns. It's Gatling guns. And you finally Gatling gun Raider. You Gatling gun 20 years off his life, and he implodes, and you're free. Yeah. So that's how you beat Raid. That's how you beat Raider, and then one of you two can talk about the ending.
Patrick
Well,
can talk about
technically, the cool
ending.
thing was, like, that's when the real, when you both have to, like,
That's right.
he's
You have to
pushing
mash button.
the split away, and you guys are mashing him into, you're in each your genres, and then he's in the middle of the dark space, and you just push the genres back together.
You have to mash to win.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they finally break out of the system, and JD Raider gets arrested, and Mio and Zoe decide to, they realize that their journey could become a good story. And so we fast forward a couple, I forget if I think it's like 6 months later or something. Or I don't remember how many months later it was. It was a couple months later, and they're going to be heading over to their book party, whatever you call that, where you introduce your book for the first time. I don't know.
Was it like a book talk, or was it like a, or what was
no, it's where it was like their first published book together, and now this is like official. So they have the copies.
Oh, that's right. We called it that when they said they were going to make a story. We were like, it's going to be split fiction.
And it literally was the same cover and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, based on a true story.
Totally.
Very true story.
But yeah, it was a bittersweet ending because they had their book deal, but it also was you found out that Mio's dad also passed away during that time, and so Mio wanted to visit her dad first to show him the book and be like, I did it, Dad. I accomplished my dream of becoming a writer, and Zoe's there to support her, and it was a good thing. Like you continue to see the friendship that they fostered, being in that machine that felt like 20 years had passed by, and it was a very good ending, I thought.
Yeah, it made me happy. Same thing. I think I like teared up a bit, but it was like bittersweet. Except the relationship between Mio and Zoe was my favorite thing in this entire game. Their character development, like both of them, their development beginning to end, and how they, Mio did not like Zoe at the beginning, but it's like watching them grow closer, and then they could open up into with each other, confide with each other. They could be that person of comfort for the other, and it just made me so happy seeing them like at the very end. And it's just like they're close. They're like pretty much each other's best friends now, and it's like it just made me happy that now they both have someone that they can open up to, and I will just always be there for them in their life. So I really liked that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I feel like the thing with I feel like the development of Mio and Zoe was by far the highlight of the game for me,
Mm-hmm.
like narrative wise. Like the thing that I think one thing that we mentioned, Taylor and I mentioned when we were talking about the game, was that compared to It Takes Two, where I think It Takes Two had a really cool overarching concept, but the execution was kind of sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
But this game had a very weak overarching element or story, but a very awesome
Mm-hmm.
execution.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing that contrast between that, I'm just like, dang, their next game they're gonna get it right. Like
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like the way they just handled the character development was awesome. I think if you pay attention to like the overarching elements, you kind of miss the point because um, like seeing how the two characters through all their journeys and through all of these little micro stories that happen and how they start to learn by each other through their stories. Um, I feel like that's such a cool element of how you can become someone's friend or become someone's closest
Mm-hmm.
ally, like through understanding what they're going through and how they express that through art or through writing,
Mm-hmm.
and learning about them through that outlet, especially when you're complete opposites, and you can
Mm-hmm.
find a middle
Mm-hmm.
ground and grow together as someone that understood where someone is coming from just through their storytelling. So I feel like that was the main like moral part of it, and I think if you focus on best character rater, you kind of miss the point of the game. Like I think that Raider he's too good for any of our minds to comprehend. Honestly, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think everyone's so confused about him and calling
He's
him a
just
weak
20 years ahead
character.
of us right
He's
now. You know,
he's
to
20.
always be 20 years ahead of us.
You know that you know in Pokemon Red when like there's that trainer in Brockstrom, he's like you're light years away from Brock. That's how I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Raider is to me.
20
Uh,
light years.
yeah. So
Uh,
anyway, okay. So on a serious note, Raider is actually like one of the worst villains I've ever seen in a game.
Nah, he was a very generic
Yeah, he was
corporate
just
businessman.
it was just
yeah.
like he did not come across. I don't know. He was boring. He was
Mhm.
flat. He didn't even seem that evil. And my complaint about the game was, we beat the whole game, and I still had no idea what he was even trying to accomplish. Like I think you're right. I think it's referencing AI. Like that's what it's
Mm-hmm.
alluding to, but not
Mhm.
once in the whole game did Raider ever say what he was trying to do, aside from steal stories. Like I was just like, can you elaborate? What are you going to do with the stories? He never once said what he's going to do with all of his stories he's stealing. It was just my machine. I need to steal stories.
Mm-hmm.
My machine, and I'm like,
I think
what are you
that he
doing?
just wanted to prove that his machine worked. I
Mhm.
think, and the girls were ruining that for him. Like
I
that
know, I
was.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, in all seriousness, that was 20 years of like his all his work trying to come in, and the one day that it needed to be perfect, it just went foobar.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I can understand his frustration and not wanting to, you know, turn back, but he did take it to more of an extreme. I think if
Mhm.
Mhm.
they stopped the machine, like, you know, they needed to, like, rather than he could have just delayed the whole matter and no one would have been any of the wiser, but
Mhm.
he insisted that they could continue on with the process. Like
Mhm.
he was too
Yeah.
impatient with that.
Yeah. This is a big day of
Hmm.
becoming a 100 times New York bestseller. So I get it.
Yeah.
I know.
Uh,
Like part of me was like, would be mad if I spent 20 years on something and it got ruined. I'd get mad too.
mhm.
But
Hmm.
at the same time, I'm just like, what were you even trying to do with this machine? I guess that was
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
hard time understanding his motive for anything. I was like,
Money.
I don't know what the point of this is. Maybe,
Well,
I guess. So I was like, why are
It's
you
money.
doing this?
yeah. I don't know. I thought it was a kind of a really lazy way of creating awareness for AI and how AI is so corruptive now of the
Yes.
arts. And if they wanted that message, they needed to implement it much better because it kind of
Yeah.
cheapens it now.
Yeah. Because
Mhm.
I think that is probably the message they were trying to get across, but I think it was not conveyed well
Yeah.
at
No.
all. And if you want
You
to
feed
make
all
a,
the yeah.
oh,
No, go
sorry.
ahead.
I was just say, if you want to make a powerful statement that's against AI, then you need to do a better job
Mm-hmm.
of that. Because I didn't think they did a good job in this game trying to prove that's kind of what it was alluding to. And I don't know, like I said, it was very weak. The overarching outside story of the game to me was just weak and not powerful.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
100% agree. Some things we haven't talked about yet that I feel like do need to be mentioned. The voice acting in this game for Mio and Zoe,
Mm,
particularly for Zoe, is some of the best voice acting I've heard in the video games ever. Like
mm,
on par, if not. No, I'll say on par with Baldur's Gate 3 for me, which is, everyone knows Baldur's Gate 3 has like the best voice acting in almost all the gaming. On
mm.
par with Final Fantasy, on par with Zelda. Link is really good. Link has a lot of good voice lines. Um,
Mhm.
on par with Phil from
Every
Kingdom Hearts
time Link
2.
goes,
Yeah,
yeah, I,
Yeah,
I get a tear. Just
yeah,
uncontrollable
feel it.
tear just comes down.
yeah. So, yeah, I think the voice acting in this game was fantastic. Like the
Mm,
characters had very good synergy. Like obviously, like there wasn't too many characters in to be voiced, but like Ella was like her brief time like comforting Zoe was cool. um some of the villain side characters are really funny. I feel like the side characters were really funny. Radar was
mm.
cheesy, but I mean, if it was just a typical Saturday villain cartoon, he did his job. um yeah, you know
Yeah.
so
Fair.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll say for me, Zoe's voice actress stood out so much. Like
mhm,
I looked up who voice acted her because I was so impressed. Like it was just a phenomenal job on her, and especially in all the emotional scenes with the like breakdowns, crying, the agony. Like she conveyed like the despair and struggle so well in her voice, and I
mhm.
was like, "Oh my god, she's phenomenal." um, yeah, very very well done. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The music was also like on point, like very
Hmm.
action oriented. Because of the nature of the game, you don't get a lot of melodies in this game.
Hmm.
There's very few times where the music is like a standard game, or like you have your background like melodies and harmonies and whatnot. It's usually very like
Hmm.
on like pacing. But I think the right really stood out the most was where you were mentioning, Taylor, where like Mio had to save Zoe from like the Hydra. Like it was
Hmm.
so emotional. It was like almost it was like on par of like Disney movies. Like it felt so impactful. And I feel like the game picked the right time to
Hmm.
swell and really hit those heartstrings with the strings and like the orchestra and
Mhm.
how impactful it was. I think a part of the reason why the music wasn't as memorable though is because I'm not a big fan of the music in Mio's levels. Like, oh my god, one of the most annoying tracks for me was actually the music in a isolation, because it was the voice that was like Mio, Mio,
Meow
Mio,
meow.
Mio, and it was like it just wouldn't shut up, and I was like, oh my god, I get it. Like, does it have to be every like 10 seconds? We were stuck in the. There's this one part we were
Meow
stuck at. Yeah,
meow meow.
we were
But
stuck in
you're in
isol.
Mio's mind. You're supposed to go crazy.
Yeah, we did go
Oh,
crazy.
maybe that's what they're
Hmm.
conveying, man.
Yeah,
It
we
made
got
Carlos annoyed. He was losing it.
yeah.
Hmm.
We got stuck in isolation because there was a
Mm,
wall that we didn't know was a
mhm,
wall run wall,
mhm.
and we got stuck trying to figure out.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, don't even go there. Yeah, there was one wall you're supposed to run on, and it does not
Hmm.
look like a wall run wall. And we thought we were at a dead end, and we got lost, and we spent like 20 minutes being like, where do we go? And then we
Mhm.
realized you run on the wall, and I was like, it looks like a normal wall. I was like, are you serious? Like, I hate this game.
Yeah.
But no, I
You're
love the
so
game.
mad. Yeah. Overall,
uh,
definitely a game. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, do your
Oh,
summary first. I'll add my
okay.
little thing afterward. No.
Okay. Overall, definitely a game where you need the right person to play with for sure. Like you have to
Mm,
have the perfect partner. I had the perfect partner, so I would think that that really made the game of the year for me. Like for sure. Like so far, like I feel like if like there's elements that like I don't know, it's just it's very much a definition of a two-player game. Like you have to have like that synergy. You have to really be able to enjoy how goofy the game is and also the serious elements of it.
mhm,
And overall, but even if you don't have that, it's still a very well done game, very well crafted, very well designed. I would say there's no element besides the story, the overarching story, and that's mediocre. And like that's saying a lot because I don't play games like to the fullest very often. Like Taylor mentioned earlier, it's hard to like have the time for it or even the motivation for it. And so I felt like this game just brought me back to a place where I'm like, oh my god, like video games are so fun. Like I just want to go home and play them. And the game hasn't done that for a very long time. So Split Fiction, obviously, this game is a 2 out of 10. Horrible game, terrible experience. Would never play. I'm just kidding. It's a definitely a solid 9.784 for me.
Wow, you ranked it higher than me.
Yeah, there's just some parts there's some parts that aren't as like my main complaint besides the overarching story is that some parts aren't as top notch as others. They're freaking good, but not hella good, I guess.
It's true. Like some of the side stories aren't as memorable or good as like other ones. I do feel like Mio's worlds are more not as exciting. I feel like Zoe's worlds were all so different because I feel like fantasy, you can do so much more in fantasy because there's a million different environments. I feel like sci-fi is it's just standard. I don't know. So I feel like a lot of Mio's worlds, it was just like, here we are, another sci-fi world. Like, yay. Like, I don't know. I felt like there was way less variety in Mio's environments and stuff.
Yeah.
It was all same thing, spacey or I don't know, flying cars and stuff like that. But no, yeah, I like the game overall. I was gonna say one thing I did kind of touch on it briefly before. One thing that I do like is that this game kind of touches on how artists of any kind put themselves into their creations. And I think that's nice because like I'm friends with a bunch. Well, obviously I'm friends with Carlos, who's a musician. I'm friends with a bunch of like fanfic writers or fan artists and stuff. And I just feel like that's something that is common. Is like a lot of fanfic writers when they write stories, they write stuff that they relate to. Sometimes it's about what they're going on in real life, or has to do, a character in the story that they can identify with. And I just feel like a lot of people put themselves into their art, and some people do it as a way to express themselves. Some people do it as like escapism, which was like, in this case, I feel like Mio and Zoe were kind of using it as escapism to avoid their problems and stuff like that. But I do like that that was a big focus of the game because Zoe brought it up continuously, like, you put yourself into your stories. I'm trying to figure out, you as a person, and you find that out about Zoe later. So I liked that they added that into there just because I think it's neat and it's something I think actual artists and people would appreciate.
I agree.
I gave my like thing at the beginning, but yeah, for me it was like a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said, I love this game so much. My only negative was the villain and the overarching story, but everything else I thought was like fantastic. So yeah, highly recommend.
Well, there's not a whole lot I can add to this that you guys didn't already say. In my opinion, the game was fun, and that's really what a game means. Is if you're having fun with it, then I think it succeeded in what it's supposed to do. But yeah, the characters, their development was just phenomenal, and it's definitely going to be a Game of the Year contender. There's still many other games coming out, but this is pretty darn high on that list right now. So, all right. Well, this was a much longer one than we've done in the past. So we're going to end it now. So we just want to say thank you so much for watching and or listening to this episode of the Boss Rush Video Game Book Club, part of the Boss Rush podcast and the Boss Rush Network. You can catch new episodes on the last Saturday of every month on the Boss Rush Expansion Pass podcast feed of your choice or on YouTube. And also, you can get this show 1 month early and ad-free voting rights and other perks for as little as $1 over on Patreon. Feel free to check out all our merch. And guys, thank you so much for your time tonight. Carlos, thank you for coming on and being part of this discussion. Taylor, it's awesome to have you as always. Thank you for doing this with me. And thank you, listeners, for listening to us talk about this game. We hope you've really enjoyed it. And until next time, we love you. Take care.
Taylor likes
If you
rainbow
want to
farts.
see how you can become a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/BossRushNetwork. The Patreon producers for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, Matthew Keel, and Christian S. Thanks for your continued support of the Boss Rush Network.